Good morning, everyone. Please turn your cell phones to vibrate, silence, or offsetting. The Gary Sansing Public Forum is intended for matters not included on the agenda for the upcoming Board of County Commissioners meeting. Citizens wishing to address items on the agenda should sign up to speak such items at the regular Board of County Commissioner meeting. Speakers shall refrain from abuse or profaning remarks, disruptive outbursts, protests, or other conduct which interferes with the orderly conduct of the Gary Sansing Public Forum. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes unless otherwise determined by the chair to allow sufficient time for all speakers. At the chairperson's discretion, the Gary Sansing Public Forum may end 5 minutes prior to the scheduled start of the upcoming Board of County Commissioner meeting to allow for the regular meeting to commence. Our first speaker is Grant Hutchinson, and Keith Bowe, you're on deck. Grant, please come to the podium. Is Grant there? Okay, Keith Bowe, you're up.
Morning, y'all. This is pretty early for me, so I know it must be early for you, too. I'm here to ask about the Olefate, where we are, and why have we devolved to this point. What my question is in the Olefate plan, it said that the people were to have some sort of a voice. Those people elected Steve Strohberger to the commission. The commission originally had said we want to support Steve and let him negotiate this out, which lasted all of half an hour. My question is, why didn't we all get behind Steve Strohberger, who was elected to do and represent the Beulah and the Olefate negotiations, and why did Commissioner Berry want to throw out the fact that, well, you're never going to see the money, and then suddenly the tide turned to where nobody wanted to support going forward what the Olefate negotiations were. I have a series of questions. I've decided not to go into them, but the question is, where are we now, and will we let Steve Strohberger handle his own district? I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Bowe. Appreciate your comments. Our next speaker is Daniel Edward Danforth, and Chris Curbs on deck.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you doing? Nice to see everybody. So, to my fellow citizens, we will never solve the stormwater riddle. It's because you guys are trying to make up for 2,000 years of no stormwater. You do the best you can do, and you try to move forward. You use codes, you use best engineering practices, and you try to make a decision to fix the problems. So that's how we need to address this and look forward to some positive methods of what can we do. I brought this device, this infrastructure, to the commission a few years back, 8 years back, and you invested in it. These are huge projects. What we've proven in this model is that a vertical discharge is a real design. Typically in our world, we move water. We move it from A to B, put it somewhere. So these 3 projects here that we've done in Pensacola have set the bar. And what you need to know is we are now represented nationally. So this product that you guys invested in is now on deck nationally. So as you chase a horizontal discharge, your engineering is wrong. You need to look at a vertical discharge. Mr. May, in this same footprint of this ditch here, he made this ditch react as if it was much wider in the same footprint by increases in permeability. So as we challenge on some of these projects, we need to look at a vertical discharge. So in the Bayou Marcus Basin, I know the typical those estimates over there has been 20 million, and it's been tabled several times because of the cost. Our price is 5 million to move 120 acre feet, and we do it in the ditches along the conveyance before it gets to the pond. So if you apply this to your open ditches in Escambia County, you have a new design tool that works. So Convergent Water Technologies is who we're partnering with right now. David Batts is in the room. He's a PE for Convergent from Houston. He flew in yesterday to be at this meeting with me. And so David's going to be helping us with county staff to develop our method to move forward. Furthermore, the other products that we sell are the weirs and the floating treatment of wetlands. There's a regulatory coming in on December that the water quality changes. And so how are you going to manage these things? These weirs control flooding. The JEP system is simply an outfall that's put below the ponds. And thank you, commissioners, for thinking outside the box and taking a leap of faith, because we have been proven this technology is real, and it started in Pensacola. Flood mitigation started in Pensacola. This is real. Ferguson's on board now, Convergent. So consider this in your designs, and I really appreciate your time today. And thank you, gentlemen, and appreciate what you do for our community, and congratulations on your new seats.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Are we going to get a copy of that?
I've got everything right here.
Okay, great.
And these
Thank
are
you.
actually made out to the commissioners, each file, please.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Mr. Danforth.
Thank you.
Chris Kerb. And Larry Downs, you're on deck.
Hey, Chris.
Where's your tinfoil hat, Larry? How y'all doing this morning?
Great.
Oh, where's Lumen at? Chris Kerb with Flood Defenders. He who has an ear, listen what the Spirit says. These words were used in the Revelations multiple times to the churches. I borrow these words because I speak to you from the Spirit. Truth that I have been spitting for the last 4 years at this dais. Are you listening? Do you believe I know what I'm talking about? I've been recognized as an expert witness in stormwater engineering by your Planning and Zoning Board based off my 25 years with the county and my education. Santa Rosa County has appointed me to the Land Development Code Task Force to be finalized by board resolution next week. I've also been appointed to the Escambia County Soil and Water Conservation District, Group 5, which is District 5. Who am I? That's also written in the Bible. My faith is I'm a Christian first. Although I seek enlightenment by continual studying of science and other beliefs, I use the title of engineer per Florida Statutes 471.0312. I've earned a bachelor's degree in civil engineering in 1991 from Auburn University and an associate's degree in drafting and design in 1986 from George Wallace Community College, where I was a Phi Theta Kappa member, honorary fraternity member, for making the top highest grade, 5% grades in the nation, our nation. I was your stormwater engineer and manager for 7 years. I was your project manager for 7 years. I was your stormwater and subdivision guru for 11 years. But the Lord had a new door for me. He shut one and opened another. The Lord blessed me with a job, a career, and advocacy work. I get paid to run my mouth and come up here and tell you what's up. It's a great thing. I also get paid to help other people, a whole lot more than when I work for the county. I got more coming.
Thank you, Chris. Our next speaker is Larry Downs, and Kevin Housen's on deck.
Don't start it yet. I heard you last time. Start it.
Hurry up, start that, Jose.
Start his tab quick.
You're 10 seconds in, Larry. Hurry up.
All right, I'm ready. I'm ready. Larry Downs Junior Plumbing LLC, because fecal matters. All right. I just wanted to start out with a quick quote by Mark Twain. In the beginning of a change, the patriot is a scarce man, and brave, hated and scorned. When his cause succeeds, however, the timid join him, for then it costs nothing to be a patriot. That's kind of where we were with COVID, and I know y'all keep telling me, I get a lot of government people tell me, hey, give COVID a break, leave it alone. And I'm like, they didn't leave us alone, did they? I sit right here where you had signs up in here that had every other seat. And then nobody, after a little while, of me not following the guidelines, and others started to join, all of a sudden, y'all opened the beaches back up. Not y'all in particular, because some of y'all weren't here. But Commissioner Barry was here. Commissioner Lumen was here. So anyways, I got a question for Mr. Kohler. Commissioner Kohler, and I know, not everybody is an anti-vaxxer, but that's because they don't read the data. If they read the data, they would definitely be. And you notice they come up with that term, anti-vaxxer. That's kind of like a derogatory term. And it's intended. It's intended by the propaganda. They did all that so that you'd be labeled, not intelligent. If you question our corporate chemical injections, you're not intelligent. What better? So anyways, here's my question. 13.1 of the Merck & Company MMR-2 vaccine. Would you give this to a new little boy, little girl? Doesn't matter either. Some of them are boys is more relevant, but in this one, 13.1, carcinogenesis, mutagenesis, impairment of fertility. MMR-2 vaccines has not been evaluated for carcinogenic or mutagenic potential or impairment of fertility. Now they tell you it's safe. We've tested it to the max, but we didn't test that. Why wouldn't we test that? Isn't that weird? And then we need IVF treatment, right? Even our president and the former vice president were arguing over IVF treatment. I'm going to give it free. I'm going to give it free. Well, the bigger question is, why do we need it? What do you put into 12-month-olds? This MMR-2. 2 doses. That's ridiculous. And nobody is questioning it. So my question, would you give it if you had a new little born baby? Would you give this to them knowing that it hasn't been evaluated?
Thank you, Larry. I believe in choice, so it's up to...
That's why I'm asking you for your choice.
I didn't have a boy, so they didn't have to worry about
Or a
infertility.
girl, it's impairment of fertility.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kevin Housen.
You're going to be an anti-vaxxer before it's over, buddy.
I think my handwriting's a little off.
Oh, is it not Hosen,
Unless
sir?
there's a Kevin Hosen. I'm Kevin Hagen, H-A-G-E-N.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
That's okay.
That's what I'm reading. I apologize. I got your name wrong.
I never was trained as a doctor, but I write like one. My name's Kevin Hagen. I am the president of a nonprofit housing company called AMR at Pensacola. And we submitted a grant request for the home ARPA funds that scored #1. Actually, most of the grant applications didn't pass the pass-fail test. So there's only 4 that passed. And out of those 4, we ranked first with a pretty, at least 10% increase over the second place proposer. So what I'm here to do today is to ask you to put on the agenda the item of awarding this grant money today. And there's a reason for that. Number 1 is, it was said in the grant application package that a notice would be made prior to today about who was going to be awarded and what. So that hasn't happened necessarily. That was supposed to be February the 7th. And we have a contract to purchase the McMillan School that we've gotten 2 extensions on, and our current extension expires in about 3 weeks. And so we can't keep pushing it down the road. We need to know where we stand with this today is what we really need. We're ready to do it. We know we're the only entity that offered affordable housing in a large number of units. And this is what this is for. And we are poised to do it, but we need to do it now. And so that's why I stand here. I hope that somebody will add this to the agenda today and we can get this resolved.
Mr. Hagan, just for clarity, I met with our county administrator yesterday about this issue. The board hasn't had a time to review. Wes, under what we discussed yesterday, will this be on the agenda March 6th?
That's right, Mr. Chairman. So what the committee did was confirm the adherence to the rules and regulations of the grant. So everybody who met the minimum qualifications to receive the grant money, those proposals will come to the board at the next board meeting, and the board will have an opportunity to decide which proposals move forward.
So the reason I didn't add it today is because we haven't had an opportunity to review it, but it will be on the March 6th agenda.
I just want to make a word of caution that if we don't, it could slip away. This opportunity could slip away. This is the opportunity that works for what you guys want. And if we don't act, it could slip away. So, we stand here in limbo. And I think the staff has done an excellent job of grading and the criteria to make an award. And if their recommendation is to award it this way, I think that's the way the county commission should vote. I can't vote for you. That's not my job. But what I want you to know is the imperative nature of this situation, that we could lose our option on the property, and then I don't know where you'd go from there. And that's all I want to make sure we're clear about. But I appreciate your comments, and I take them to heart. I just want you to know the critical nature of the timing right now.
No, I completely understand it,
Okay.
and unfortunately, government works at its pace, and I am not going to put the other commissioners that haven't had a chance to look at the different things that we can accept. Basically, what I'm being told, I don't think that's fair to do that today without them having the opportunity to review the whole package.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you. Eric Sharpen, you're next.
Well, good evening, Mr. Chairman. I saw with a couple of people, and they was
Put the mic down, Eric.
okay. He was saying that to me, Dave Murazan, if you want to get the most money for your OLF8, go all commercial and do it that way, because I think we're going to get to a point where we need the revenue more than we need the housing, and that's something to think about. He says that's originally what OLF8 was to be, was all commercial. The other thing is I'm directing people to your office because there was a big discussion on these cats on next door, about 500 comments. And I told them, I said, the county sets the budget. You need to let your commissioners know that we need help, because I'm seeing cats in my area that are just so poor. They're hungry, and they're having kittens out of control, and animal control says there's nothing they can do. I mean, I hate to see them suffering the way that we are doing. But I hope we can get our act together on OLF8, because at the rate it's going, 5 years from now, I don't think anything is going to happen. I really do, because they can't blame Jeff Bergosh anymore. We got to give the new guy a chance to get something done, but it seems like every time you do, there's a wrench thrown in and developers are walking away. So I hope that there can be a spirit of cooperation and unity on it, and everybody come together and for the common good of our county on the OLF8 project. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Eric. Our next speaker is Nanette Chandler. Is Nanette Chandler here? Okay, thank you, Nanette. Please come to the podium.
Good morning, Commissioners. I am the Interim Executive Director of AMR, and I'm just going to follow up on what Kevin was talking about with the Home ARP grant. According to the stipulations of the grant, all of the applications were to be reviewed as of February the 3rd, and on February the 7th, we had a call where we were able to watch the proceedings of the grading and who was awarded or could possibly be awarded the different portions of the grant. If the commissioners are familiar with the funds that are being awarded, there are funds for service-related activities, and there are funds for construction-related activities. The reason we're here today, not only because of the time limit we've now found ourselves in, is because we are the only company that's qualified to receive the construction-related funds. So it's not as though you're comparing us to someone else. I actually brought everything with me today. If we're added to the agenda, I'm happy to present the entire package for you to see so we can overcome that hurdle. But the timeline is a serious issue for us. And the fact that the only reason the timeline is extended or has been extended, we had a call on February the 14th as a follow-up, and now there's going to be another one. But none of that is directly related to our application for the construction funds. All of that is due to some service-related funds. So all the other entities that did qualify are asking for that same pool of service funds, and a lot of them were missing like financial documents that wouldn't necessarily, cause them to be rejected from grant funding. It was basic oversight. So I know that the commissioning board for that grant has done a great job of review, and they're trying to make sure they spend every dollar they can on, service-related funds. And the groups that did qualify on the first round, it wouldn't have spent all the money. So I do understand why they needed to extend the timeline. But for our portion, there is no competition. No other company qualifies for the construction-related funds. So it's really a technicality of the board here understanding the proposal and then moving forward to awarding the funding.
Okay, Nanette, thank you for your comments. Like I shared with Kevin, I found out about this Thursday night. I went to the county administrator. I don't believe the other commissioners have been able to review all the documents. I don't think they're in a position to make that vote. I've asked the county administrator to put it on the March 6th agenda. Is that too big of a leap?
Well, we are, like we said, under an extension for the purchase of the property, and they are not wanting to provide another extension.
When is the deadline on that?
It is in March, the beginning part of March. So even if there are questions and, other concerns that are brought up at the March 6th board, we're a few days off of that. So that's the bigger concern. We're the only person that's providing 53 affordable housing units, and we're providing 40% of the funding. We're only asking for 60% of the funding. So we have over $1 million in funds to match, but without the grant, the project is dead.
Right.
So and that money will not be spent at all.
I just don't think it's fair to find this out literally in the last 48 hours and expect the commissioners to vote on something that they have not been able to review. I promise it'll be on the March 6th agenda unless there's an appetite for the board to vote on this, but I just don't think that that's reasonable to expect us to, in that time frame, under their neighborhood services sharing with me, there's a few issues. We don't have a tiny house ordinance. And I don't even know if Commissioner Mays looked at this, in McMullen area in his district. Are you familiar with what they want to build out there?
We don't actually need a tiny house ordinance for what we're doing.
I know that.
Okay.
But that was one of the, I think that was one of the things that Neighborhood Services at least came back and talked to me about. I don't know, I can't talk to these guys, so I don't know if they've talked to the rest of them, right? So I don't know how much knowledge they have about this
I know
project.
several of the commissioners were actually on the call whenever all the documents were being reviewed through that process. So they may, I'm not sure, they may be comfortable.
I don't know
maybe
what
not.
commissioners were on the call. What commissioners were on the call?
I wasn't. But look, I'm committed to putting on the agenda March 6th, and every commissioner has a responsibility to review it and decide where they are on it. And I think that's, based on the timeline and what our staff has done, I think that's the right way to go forward. That's not going to affect, you can work around that?
I don't know that I can work around that, unfortunately. But if the committee does decide to proceed today and put it on the agenda, I have everything in copies for everyone here today, and I can review it with you. If that's the decision that's made.
Any commissioner can add an item to the agenda. I don't know the knowledge of the other commissioners, so I'm not willing to do that. But,
I think the two main hurdles that people were concerned about was the tiny house ordinance and the number of units. However, we don't need a tiny house ordinance to proceed with the grant. And the number of units is superseded by Florida Statute 120, the Live Local Act from 2023, and then the Revision 389. So we don't have any zoning issues or anything like that that we need to address. It's really just an understanding of the project and awarding.
I was on the call, so I feel like I have an advantage over everyone else. I don't know if the other commissioners have had time to review it. Can we ask now? if we're
Anyone
comfortable
can
with it?
speak up.
You're not
Okay.
comfortable
And
with
it's
it?
in your
Okay.
district.
Okay.
I think that out of respect for both you and the board, March 6th is the next meeting. I think that's when we should make this decision so everyone has an opportunity to review all the packages. I have been told you have the best package. I haven't reviewed them all. I don't know if that's the case. But I think that's the right place for us to land today, ma'am. I hope that doesn't affect your project.
So just
Okay.
question on how that runs on our behalf. So if we vote on it, their project or somebody else's, when can they move forward as if the grant's in hand? What does that look like for us turning over that?
Wes, can you answer that? I don't know that answer.
So say we say, yes, that's a great project, we're going to fund that. What is the protocol for us turning that over and her having the okay on the grant? Is there a long
I think
term?
once the board officially approves the project, I think they would be free to move forward with their construction or their whatever initiative that they're trying to accomplish. This grant is like in many other grants that we award. It is on a reimbursement basis.
So they could move
once
forward
you
that
have
Friday morning?
once they have the commitment of the board, they're good to move.
Okay.
So Wes, I mean, I guess if this is being processed through Neighborhood and Human Services, this is the first I've heard about this. Is there a blackout period, or were we supposed to be consulted on this? I mean, I'm unclear if there was a blackout or if staff have not brought that to me. I mean, a significant project in my district and staff's negotiating on my behalf. That's probably
Well,
not going to be favorable.
Staff wasn't negotiating, they were simply not even ranking the proposals, just ensuring that the proposals met the criteria of the grant. And
Was
that's
it
all-
a
that's
blackout
all they're
period in
doing.
which commissioners
Well,
were
it's a
not
notice-
supposed?
It was a notice of funding availability, and yes, there should have been a blackout period, yes.
Okay, and so, I mean, I just heard what you said. There's a commissioner that's on the phone. There's a blackout period. I've been alienated for being able to participate in something that's major in my district, and fundamentally, that's a problem. That is a problem. If someone's negotiating something in the most historic district in my neighborhood, and staff's they're not voted on. I'm voted on. Staff's not voted on, and they're not going to negotiate on my behalf.
So you know about
And that's
the
that's
proposal?
unacceptable. And if there's a commissioner that on the
Commissioner May,
phone
I do
talking
think-
about something in my district, I don't get on the phone and talk about things in other people's district. I
Just to
respect that.
clarify, I was present on the phone call. I was not active on the phone call. So I was there just to understand how the
No,
process
no,
works.
no offense. So if it was not a blackout, I'm fine. I'm going to be at the table. But if there is a blackout, I'm going to respect it because I'm the first one that they're going to blame for impropriety, that I'm violating some type of rule. And so I don't participate at the staff level in making decisions. But
Commissioner May,
staff's
you-
not going to bring something to me and negotiate on my behalf.
Commissioner May, you will absolutely be part of the selection process of moving the proposals forward. The board as a whole will make those decisions, and you will absolutely be a part of that.
And Commissioner
no,
May, that's
no
one of
big
the
deal.
reasons I had a problem with it today, because I think everyone needs to review all the proposals and see how they fit.
Well,
And
I hadn't seen any proposal.
I haven't
Not
seen
that I'm
any
against
either.
this.
But, so I think you can see that there's some passion about the subject, and I think it needs to be brought back on March 6th when the commission has time to review all of the projects. And I think that's where we're going to land today, ma'am. So,
Okay.
all right. That concludes public forum. We will move on to the BCC meeting here shortly at 0900. I mean CRA, as I was, CRA and then the BCC meeting.
It's Escambia County Redevelopment Regular Meeting, February 20th, 2025, 8:55 a.m. Ernie Lee McGahey. Please turn your cell phone to vibrate, silence, or the off setting. The Board of County Commissioners allows any person to speak regarding an item on the agenda. The speaker is limited to 2 minutes unless otherwise determined by the chairman. Is there proof of publication?
The CRA meeting was published in the Pensacola News Journal on February 13, 2025.
Thank you. Are there any speakers for public forum?
Not to my knowledge.
Great. Technical and Public Service Consent Agenda.
Yes, recommendation concerning Community Redevelopment Agency meeting minutes, January 9th, 2025.
Mr. Chairman, I move the technical public service consent agenda.
We have a motion, second. Please vote. 4 in favor, 1 missing from the dais. Thank you. Budget and Finance.
They have two recommendations concerning residential roof program funding and lien agreements, and recommendation concerning the cancellation of residential rehab grant program liens.
Chair, entertain a motion
Move the entire budget and finance consent agenda.
in its entirety. Please vote. Second. Please vote. Passes 4 in favor. Move 1 off. Any discussion items?
No discussion items.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, we stand adjourned.
Thank you. All right. Good morning, round 3. We're here for the Board of County Commissioners regular meeting, February 20th, 2025, 9 a.m. The Board of County Commissioners allows any person to speak regarding an item on the agenda. The speaker is limited to 3 minutes unless otherwise determined by the chairperson to allow sufficient time for all speakers. Speakers shall refrain from abusive or profane remarks, disruptive outbursts, protests, or other conduct which interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting. Upon completion of the public comment period, discussion is limited to board members and questions raised by the board. Commissioner Strohberger walked out. He has the invocation today, so I'm not sure who's doing that for him. We'll stand by just a second. Commissioner Berry, after he gets back, do you mind doing the pledge?
Yes.
Thank you. Do we know who was doing the invocation? Yeah, he just walked out. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is someone here to do the invocation today? Oh, come on up. We'll go ahead and proceed. I don't know your name, sir, but welcome to the Board of County Commissioners. If you'd like to tell us who you are and where you're from, and then lead us in the invocation, that'd be great.
Half of you know me, Pastor Gary Porter, Encounter Church, and it's good to see you all. Glad you're here.
Okay.
And so Steve will be back. I'm sure he maybe took a short break. So let's stand and pray. Heavenly Father, we approach you, the God of all governments and order. And we thank you this day for this opportunity for us to gather together and to bring about the administration of this county. And we thank you for the opportunity that you give to all of us. We ask that you would give to each of these that make these decisions this day the wisdom necessary to do it. We humble ourselves to receive the grace necessary to fulfill the plans and purposes you have for us. I pray in order of peace and your will to be done on the earth, even as it is in heaven, as Jesus taught us to pray. I thank you for the good men and women that are leading and guiding this assembly this day, and we thank you for those citizens that are here to speak on the behalf of all of these necessary projects that we want to see fulfilled and accomplished as we move forward as a people, as a county, and as a nation. We ask for all of this in the mighty and wonderful name of your Son, our Savior, Jesus. Amen.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Berry?
Please join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Gary. Thank you very much.
All right. Commissioner Berry, are there any items to add to the agenda?
No, thank you.
Commissioner May?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Strohberger?
No.
Commissioner Hopperger?
No, sir.
Okay. Does the board adopt the agenda as prepared?
So moved.
Second.
Please vote. All right, motion passes 5-0. Commissioners Forum, Commissioner Berry?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to, first I want to thank one of our constitutional partners, Scott Lunsford, in addition to, I think, running a great office. He and Rich Stone over there. I want to thank them for being in Century today. They're having a just kind of an open day with their mobile unit, helping citizens and constituents inside the town of Century. Also, speaking of Century, I want to congratulate Ben Boutwell. I see he's put his name back in the hat for mayor of the town. Was excited to see him, potentially moving back into a leadership position up there. And I also want to recognize on Saturday there's going to be the Ruritan Club in Walnut Hill. They're our partner for a county-owned facility on Highway 97, commonly known as the Atmore Cutoff. The Ruritan Club is our partner that manages that club for us, manages that brick and mortar building for us. They have their big annual fundraiser this Saturday. It's going to be at 9:30. It's their annual equipment auction. It also happens to be the 50th equipment auction, so it's a big deal Saturday morning for folks that are in the market for those types of fairs. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I want to apologize ahead of time. I have a bit of a cold that has hung around for a little while now, so if, as I may have to address folks today, I don't sound especially well, but.
I thought it was just your normal voice, Steve. Yeah, perhaps. Fundamentally a problem. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioner Berry. Certainly, I want to first recognize Black History Month and the great contributions that many African Americans have made to this country, to this state, and to this county. And I certainly am proud to represent a minority majority district because of those guys, such as Georgia Blackman, Johnny Blackman, Sam Horton, Clyde Stokes, those guys, and Leroy Boyd, who probably would never have served in an elected position, but fought that we may have representation here in Escambia County. So I do salute them. I want to thank the Brownsville senior ladies. I had an opportunity. I want to thank David and our PIO for capturing much of Pensacola's history and being able to recognize the great contributions that people have made. I often think of my dad when and the contributions that he's made to this community, and to recognize and to keep that legacy alive is important. I do recognize today that we have two of our elected officials, School Board Member Dave Williams, Councilman Broughton. I was called coming to you. You didn't have to wave, but Councilman Broughton and School Board Member Williams. And certainly want to thank Commissioner Stroberger. The Chabby James event was a great event at Sanders Beach, and it was good seeing you and Commissioner Kohler there. And being in a poor district, I can't be it like you guys and spend like you guys, but it was it was good to be there. But certainly want to recognize Joey Brewer. In 1974, Joey Brewer ran for city council. David Williams' father, Hollis T., was the first elected African-American, but Joey Brewer was one of the first African-Americans to ever run in 1974 for city council. I will be a part of his homegoing celebration at the Antioch Missionary Baptist Church this coming Saturday at 11 o'clock. With Pastor Tyler Hardiman, and as well Mr. Anthony Flyboy Dawson, who is kind of the mayor of the Wedgwood area, instrumental in all the work that happened at the Wedgwood Community Center in Hampton Road. I've coached Little League with him for about 40 years, and his funeral will also be in the Inslee area with Pastor J.C. Crenshaw at 11 o'clock as well, and I'm on program there. But to both families, my condolences and my prayers are to those. And many of us have had a chicken sandwich at the Dwarf, and a guy by the name of Longboy that worked with Calvin Ransford, he was laid to rest this week, as well as Betty Brown. So District 3 has had a lot of deaths and a lot of funerals the past weekend, and this weekend will be no different. But if we missed anyone and we did not make it to your event, to your homegoing celebration, our prayers and condolences are with all the families that have lost loved ones. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner May, and I'm sorry, Councilwoman Broughton and School Board Member Williams, I didn't recognize you. Thank you for helping me out with that, Commissioner May. Commissioner Stroberger?
Hey, good morning, everybody. I have a lot to talk about, so I don't know who has the pool, who's got the midnight block, but I won't go too long. I want to acknowledge African American Month, too. I got more to talk about that in my later comments. I met with Lindsay Cannon this week from the ECT. We had a good meeting. Met with the fire union. I don't know when that was. It was about a week ago. Was it about a week ago? And had a really good discussion with those folks too. I'm a big supporter of firefighters, and I got tons of emails about supporting firefighters. We all support firefighters up here. And yesterday, toured the jail for the second time. Not my favorite tour, but Chief Powell gave us a great tour. I got more information. I think he's doing a good job there. Thank you very much, Chief. Yesterday, the 19th of February, was the 80th anniversary of the Battle of Iwo Jima. The American invasion was called Operation Detachment. 6,800 Marines died, and another 2,600,000 Marines were wounded or missing. The USS Iwo Jima LHD-7 was commissioned here in Pensacola. I was the mini boss. I'm a plank owner on the USS Iwo Jima. That was in June 2001. The Battle of Iwo Jima is an important battle to Marine Corps history, and to Marines, because it reinforces the Marine Corps legacy of tenacity, adaptability, and sacrifice. Sacrifice is a big one. It shapes the Marine Corps' identity, culture, and traditions, and I'm happy to say I'm a Marine. I see Marines out here. I saw Jim Reeves earlier. Thank you, Marines, for your service. In a week, it's going to be Theodore Ellison's birthday. He's aviator #1. Remember, I'm aviator 22,000 plus. So happy birthday to Theodore. I'm on the board, third thing, I'm on the board of the Northwest Florida Red Cross. The Red Cross responds to 65,000 disasters every year. And the Red Cross's Dining for Disaster is March 27th. And I'm going to bring this up again. Participating restaurants will be donating a portion of their sales, and all proceeds from Dining from Disaster will benefit disaster relief in Escambia County and surrounding counties. A few of the participants participating in Perdido Key are Jellyfish, Lillian's Pizza, and the Sports Bar, and there'll be others because I'm going to be knocking on some doors and recruiting other local restaurants as we get closer to March 27th. Hurricane season's right around the corner, and like I said, the proceeds benefit us. Another one, number 4, is Foiling Week. Foiling Week begins February 24th, and it goes through March 2nd. I've been in conversations for more than 2 years. I was working with Commissioner Kohler at the time when Tim Reichon came to the office, and he's the founder of SAIL Pensacola, Tim Reichon. He realized very early the potential for technology and jobs that can come from American Magic's presence here in Pensacola. From foiling competitions, this first one coming up, to electrification of our shoreline, there's a lot of economic possibilities. You can go here. If you can't see this, you can see Hassan's got one over there at thefoilingweek.com to learn more. And I think this is going to be the beginning of an economic renaissance for Escambia. I don't think everybody understands how big this is going to be. This is going to be massive for us. And we have to make it massive. Thank you. That's not it. That's not all I got. At our last BCC meeting, I said Escambia was open for business, not business as usual. But that's what we got, I think, business as usual. And I do know now why we stopped doing the committee of the whole meetings. I'm glad we brought them back. And I think it's because they were a waste of time. We've taken the phrase, "Don't believe everything you hear," to a whole new level. It happened again last Tuesday at the TDC meeting. The TDC voting previously and recommending to this board to give $750 TDD dollars to the General Chappie James Memorial. And then they snatched it back. Let's see where we go from here. Piggybacking on what Commissioner May was talking about, 2 commissioners joined me and Gina at the General Chappie James Museum Gala a couple of weeks ago. I read a proclamation to 2 of General James' grandchildren. One of them, Frank Berry, is here today. Hi, Frank. The gala was, as the chairman says, fabulous. He often says fabulous. General James, and I didn't bring my coin, but General James said, "This is my country, and I believe in her." It's time for us, I think, us to start believing in our local government. So I'm asking for a little grace period while this board adjusts and recalibrates. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Strober. Commissioner Hubbard?
Thank you so much. Thank you for mentioning Boiling Week and tying tourism to economic development. That's huge for our community, and I love that we are rallying around that. So thank you for bringing attention to that. I also want to echo what Commissioner Stroberger said about making sure that our first responders, specifically right now our firefighters, are paid a decent livable wage, and I do believe that is a priority for all of us. So thank you so much for bringing that up as well. This past week, I had the opportunity to meet with our local delegation in Tallahassee. It is a whole different experience seeing those people work on their turf. So thank you to Michelle and Alex and Senator Gates for welcoming us in and hearing our concerns and just being available. I really do appreciate that. I am also part of the TDC committee, so that was a very interesting meeting. I appreciated the collaboration and the conversation around that. I'm honored to be a part of that, and I think we can get to where we need to be from here. So looking forward to making that happen. And then last week, my team toured the EOC again, and it is, every time I go there, they open up another door. Hey, did you know this was here? And it is just such a great operation that our community depends on in our time of need. So Eric Gilmore and your team, thank you so much for allowing us to come in and teaching us so much about how our Emergency Operations Center works. We really do appreciate that.
I got one more thing, if you don't mind.
I suppose.
Okay. All right. I wanted to share a phone call I had this morning on the way to the office. It was a call from Admiral Jerry Unruh. He shared a story with me from 1975. He was a young commander in Oceana then, and his squadron came down to Tyndall Air Force Base for an exercise with the Air Force. There was a hurricane on the way. I think it was Eloise, maybe. Oh, that was in September. But it was expected to miss Tyndall, and the Air Force encouraged Jerry's squadron to fly down. I can't believe I just called him Jerry, Admiral Unruh. Sorry about that. So they did. They came down here. Commander Unruh was excited. He just became the CEO of this F-14 squadron, and he was scheduled to dogfight with the newly promoted 4-star General James. He became, as we know, America's first African-American 4-star general. General James would fight with the F-4 Phantom, like the one that's going to be on the stick over Wayside Park someday, very soon. Well, the hurricane changed course, and they had to evacuate, so it never happened. But what I got out of that story was my mouth was dropping hearing this Admiral tell me this history. It's a living history for me because I'm hearing it from the horse's mouth, so to speak. This veteran, this historian sharing this story with me, I thought it was just amazing, and he's got so much to share with me. He shared it with Chris. We all know who he is. A lot of us know who he is, and I can't wait to share my story about when he's also a Mustang. That's what I get at. Big kick I get. He's a Mustang too, like Mike and I, and I'm going to share my story with him because we ran out of time because he took up so much time of my time driving in. But and I think he did probably you too. He told me he was going to give Lumen a call too. Yeah. But a great guy and a major supporter of the Chappie James Memorial. Thank you.
Hey, and Steve, I met Jerry Unruh through Admiral Peter Booth, who is a rear admiral who is an unsung hero that lives in our community. And Jerry, obviously living in Melbourne now, but many days with Alvin Wingate and Admiral Peter Booth and Jerry and his support for Chappie James. And so, I mean, we're not, it's not an agenda item, but I want to tell you that I'm committed to supporting you on Chappie James.
Thank you, gentlemen. And actually, it's funny, Admiral Unruh called me this morning, and I hadn't talked to him in a year, and I called him back. I said, "Sir, is there an issue?" And he goes, "No, I just want to tell you I appreciate what you guys are doing with the Chappie James, and obviously that's on the agenda. We'll talk about that later today and see where the board wants to go. But we're fortunate to have so many folks here, but Chappie James is a little bit different than a lot of our service members that served, and I really hope our community gets behind him in this memorial or plaza or venue or pedestrian facility, whatever we want to call it. But yeah, that's good. I wanted to say the Chappie James Gala the other night, it was fabulous. We all got about 20 photos with the family and at the Admiral Gay, and it was just a great night of fellowship. And, you know, there was obviously auction items and all that raised some money for the foundations. But it was a really nice night, and it was just, for me, being in the military, I love those kind of things. I've told people a long time ago I have a favorite type of people, and they're military people, just because I just like the way the camaraderie and the sacrifice and the oath that has to be taken every time you re-enlist or get promoted, and it means a lot to me. The base CO, I want to thank her this last Tuesday night. She's working the neighborhood groups around the base, which I found pretty amazing. She went out to the Warrington Revitalization and talked about the importance of the neighborhoods around the base, what the base is doing. Wants to thank us for what the county's doing to support the base. So thank her. I want to thank her very much for that. And it means a lot to me that she's taken such a vested interest outside of the gates of NAS Pensacola. Myrtle Grove Voluntary Fire Department, I know a lot of people have talked about this. We had this, you know, we had some water stuff going over there. I appreciate Chief Harrison's leadership on that this week, trying to get that under control so we can get them back and running at that spot sooner and later. I know Mr. Hogan's involved with that as well, but thank you, gentlemen, for moving forward with that. We had a very productive meeting this week, the county administrator and myself with the Sheriff's Department. I thought it went really good on some negotiations. It's obviously got to be fine-tuned, but I thought it was very productive, Wes, and I want to thank you, and I want to thank the sheriff for being a reasonable negotiator. Obviously, that will have to come to the board when all the details are final, but I thought they were very reasonable in their requests. I know we got Mardi Gras coming up here in a few weeks, so that'll be fun for another event for our area. And I do this every year because I'm a proud nurse, but every year in January, Gallup puts out the most trusted professional professions in the United States. And for 23 years in a row, the #1 profession is nursing. And I'm not surprised by that, because when people are in their most vulnerable state and things that they think are important are no longer important, the person they spend most of their time with is a nurse. And so for all those nurses out there, I want to thank them for their service, just like firefighters and police officers and correctional officers and public works, all our public servants. But good job. Steve, you'll be happy. Military officers were third, not helicopter pilots, but they were on the list.
Mr. Chairman, I will interject that my favorite person in the world is a nurse, so for the record.
Well, amen.
It's not you.
Oh, doggone. All right. Hey, County Administrator, you want to mention anything about what you told me earlier?
Sure. So this morning at about 5 a.m., we received an offer from Tri-W for OLF 8. The number attached to the offer was $42,500,000. It is in the legal office. We have not had time to go through it, but wanted to make the board aware. So what our plan is moving forward to ask legal to go through the contract, go through the proposal, call out the contingencies, all the stuff that it takes to get to the closing table. So you'll see that analysis coming forth in the next week.
And as you guys know, I intend on putting that on the agenda March 6th for a discussion item, and we'll see where the
And I
board
do
is.
believe Madam Attorney Rogers has a meeting scheduled with the attorney from Tri-W to have some discussions next week.
Okay. Thank you, Wes. All right. I think we're done with Commissioner Forum. Do I have a motion to adopt and ratify the proclamation?
Second.
Okay, please vote. Passes 5-0. Commissioner Stroberger, are you rereading the General Chappie James proclamation? Okay, please proceed. She's right there. I see her.
So I read this proclamation at the Chappie James Museum Gala, and I'll say what I said then is it was an honor. That was my first proclamation, and I'm reading it again. Maybe I should just read it all the time. It's gonna. This is one of those things I'll remember the rest of my life that I got to do this. Thank you. So here goes. Whereas General Daniel Chappie James Jr. is being honored, always have trouble with this word, posthumously, with an acknowledgement of the 105th anniversary of his birth. This acknowledgement recognizes the lifetime achievements of an individual who pursued and attained excellence during his life. And whereas General James, born on February 11th, 1920, in Pensacola's East Side neighborhood, attended the school developed by his mother, Mrs. Lily James. He later graduated from Booker T. Washington High School and enrolled at Tuskegee Institute. And whereas General James was the first African-American four-star officer in the armed forces. He was a decorated fighter pilot who earned his Army Air Corps wings in 1943 at Tuskegee Army Airfield, where he trained pilots for the all-black 99th Pursuit Squadron during World War II. General James flew 101 combat missions in Korea and 78 missions in Vietnam. And whereas General James was promoted to the four-star rank of general in 1975, and assigned as Commander-in-Chief of NORAD ADCOM at Peterson Air Force Base in Colorado. At age 58, he died from a heart attack just 3 months after his retirement from the Air Force. And whereas the childhood home of General James at 1606 Dr. Martin Luther King Drive was declared a historical site by the National Register of Historic Places on November 7th, 2000. On June 6, 2018, the home was officially opened as the Chappie James Museum, and whereas Escambia County is honored to have had General James as a resident leader and inspiration in our community. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners of Escambia County, Florida, hereby proclaims February 11th, 2025 as General Daniel Chappie James Day. Board of County Commissioners of Escambia County, Florida, Michael S. Kohler, Chairman, District 2, Ashley Hoffberger, Vice Chairman, District 4, Steve Stroberger, District 1, Lumen May, District 3, Stephen Berry, District 5. Move over more? Yeah. Let's move that way? Yeah. Come on, come over this way. Okay. Yeah, do.
Well, hello. On behalf of the family, I'd just like to thank you very much for all the support that we've seen in this community. This is all kind of new to me. My parents were the ones, and my uncles, and recently that have been involved with all of these things. And now that some of the family members have passed on, I'm honored to be able to get up here and just represent the family. And thank you for everything you've been doing. This has just been an incredible opportunity to get up here and see how well this community has embraced my grandfather's legacy. And I think it's just extremely important for the community to see not just my grandfather's legacy, but it kind of represents everything that the service members of this country have done over the years. And also just an influence to the younger generations now to see what can be done with hard work, preparation, patriotism, and we're just happy to be here and honor that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone from Ocean Hour, if you'll meet me at the podium? Thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. As many of you know, when I ran, one of the things that bothered me in my district and the county as a whole was the garbage and the blight. And so I started reaching out to some of the communities that on their weekends they go out and pick up trash around the county. And I've been out there with Ocean Hour several times picking up trash at Lexington Terrace and different Jones Swamp and stuff like that. But these are the people that, you know, that are working the streets when we're enjoying other things. And they're picking up the trash and trying to make our community look better. And I can't thank you enough for what you do. You don't get enough credit. I know we're going to give you a proclamation, but thank you so much for what you're doing to make the place we all love a more beautiful place. So let me read this proclamation for you all. Whereas Escambia County has experienced severe weather in the past in the form of extreme rainfall of tropical system events, resulting in flood in both coastal and riverside arenas, and this flooding has caused damage and flood losses to homes, buildings. Did you give me the right proclamation? I'm sorry. This is Flood Awareness Week, Jose. He handed it to me. I looked at it yesterday. I just realized, so this is the wrong one. But it doesn't mean we don't value what you're doing. Yeah. Okay. He'll go get that. But I'll let, before he cuts back down, how much total trash have you guys picked up over the years?
200,000 pounds of marine debris.
Wow. So 200,000 pounds of marine debris over the years. I know every time I go out, it seems like we get anywhere from 100 to 600 pounds of trash. And we only pick up trash for like an hour. And it's amazing to me how much trash we pick up, you know. And before, you know, why don't I let you guys make a couple comments while he's getting the correct proclamation, if you'd like to, about your work, and then we'll, you know, I apologize for this, but hey, we make mistakes too.
Well, I've been designated to speak for the group. My name is Mike Mosier, and on behalf of Sharon Ginkowskis, who's our co-director, and Barbara Mosier, also co-director, and all the other leadership team. First of all, I have to thank you for the recognition today. It goes a long way to maintaining our energy and so on. But I also want to express thanks for the support from the county, from you, and from all the commissioners and the staff, because this is very much a community effort, and the county commissioners are the leaders of the community. I would say, though, that the longest journey starts with the first step. And when Sharon and Barbara went out and started picking up trash, we said, well, we should start keeping track of it. And lo and behold, 12 years later, we've got 200,000 pounds of trash or marine debris or bottle caps or cigarette butts or cans or even a refrigerator and many tires and other things. So it's been a big effort to make this the most environmentally sound and cleanest area, most beautiful area in Florida, I think. But it's more than that. Sharon and others are very active on public education, and we're trying to work with businesses to make sure that every business, particularly fast food restaurants and such, do their part to limit the amount of marine debris and trash, because all of this will go into the waters and in the ocean and so on like that. But anyway, from our perspective, we work with you, we work with the community, and we think it's a great effort, and we're looking forward to many months and years ahead. And I think the thing I'm most proud of this group is that every Saturday at 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the summer, we're out there for an hour every Saturday, unless there's lightning or heavy rain. But in the cold, like right now, a great day to be out there picking up this stuff. So anyway, we're looking forward to seeing commissioners and others with us, and we will be there for you.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll just say this, if you ever want to have 1 hour where you feel like value after about 5 minutes, at the end of the hour when you look at all the garbage, you're like, man, I can't believe this. And like anything, I know, Sharon, we were out there a few weeks ago in the cold, just 4 of us, and it was pretty cold out there, and I'd committed to you. But we picked up a lot of trash, and the thing was, I always feel better after effect. Does anyone else, while we're waiting, you want to say something, Sharon? I know you're deep in this. No? Okay. What's the craziest thing any of you have picked up? What's the craziest thing you've got? You want to say? 2 sets of dentures. Did you try them out? Okay. All right. Well, I hope Jose gets here soon. How do you know True Vegetarian? They don't eat animal crackers. Lumen, you're up. No. Yeah.
Myrna picked up
Yeah, I'm gonna really be
5,000
up, 'cause I'm gonna
pounds by herself last year.
She did.
Yes.
You picked up 5,000 pounds? Is that why your arms hurt?
My arms hurt because I went to a party and I wasn't drinking and I fell across some.
You need to filibuster for about another
leaves.
45
I
minutes.
picked up 5,000 pounds last year and I mainly work in Beulah and in West Pensacola. And right now we're trying to I work the really bad areas. And Massachusetts Avenue has improved considerably. I'm really proud of everybody. We're now working on Hollywood, and I work off Wedgwood. And people miss me if I'm not in the community, and I just keep on counting those pounds and taking it there and seeing what's going on. And the county has furnished my trash bags, which I'm truly grateful for. Thank you.
Okay, well, I think we're getting close to going, and we'll get you an official proclamation. But yeah, I want to thank Mike Rhodes. And the other thing I want to say, they don't just pick up in District 2, they pick up all over the county. That's fine, we'll get it before it's done. But I'm going to go ahead and read this. We'll get you the official document, and we'll go from there. Okay, whereas Ocean Hour was founded in 2012 by Sharon, how do I say your last name? Jinkowskis, after being inspired by Justin Riney of Mother Earth, who believes in an hour a week is dedicated to clean up our planet. It'll make a difference. Whereas Ocean Hour is a volunteer group that offers weekly Saturday morning beach cleanups at multiple sites throughout Escambia, Santa Rosa, and Okaloosa counties, and it expanded their services and volunteers teams. Whereas the volunteer group now conducts 2 to 3 regular cleanups every Saturday and established partnerships with other organizations to facilitate cleanup events during other days of the week, leading them to perform approximately 130 cleanups a year at over 16 sites. Whereas Ocean Hour has gradually increased its volunteer base to over 2,400 people, and they have removed over 200,000 pounds of marine debris and trash from shorelines and waterways in Northwest Florida. Whereas Ocean Hour also performs advocacy work by attending numerous events and raising awareness of environmental issues, and has partnered with schools to carry out recycling projects and fundraising activities. All these efforts lead to receive a Civicon Environmental Award and an Impact 100 grant. Whereas Ocean Hour has an incredible and hardworking board supporting them, including Sharon, Barbara, Jen, Blaze, Mike, and Amy. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners of Escambia County, Florida acknowledges and commends Ocean Hour for their unwavering dedication to the preservation of Northwest Florida's shoreline and waterways and their invaluable contributions to the continued beautification of our community. Board of County Commissioners of Escambia County, Michael S. Kohler, Chair, District 2, Ashley Hoffberger, Vice Chair, District 4, Steve Stroberger, District 1, Lumen May, District 3, and Stephen Barry, District 5. Okay, we'll take a photo with this one even though it's the wrong one, and then I'll get you the right one, okay? All right, let's get together, everybody. Who wants to hold the Phantom?
Yeah, fine. No problem.
All right, big smile. Okay, I'll make sure you get the correct form. And thank you all for coming out. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Ocean Hour.
All right, Jose, that's your mulligan. All right, let's move on to public hearing, 9:01 a.m. Do we have any speakers on public hearing?
Move to waive the reading of the schedule.
Okay, oh, I'm sorry, is there a second? Was it, okay, please vote. Okay, motion passes 5-0. Okay. So do I have a motion on 902 public hearing?
All right. The 901, I mean, I don't think we moved that, so I moved the 901 if there's no speaker.
I'm sorry, you're right, 901. I'm distracted from doing the 901. Do we have a motion on 901, Commissioner Berry? Do you? You know what? I want to thank Max for all his hard work, the folks in Myrtle Grove that came out in Wesco. Honestly, you just can't imagine the room that came out. And we had some arrows thrown, and Max tap danced pretty good. But the neighborhood as a whole is very, very grateful, and the board here should know that area, if you want to sit down with Max and look at the need, it's real. The crime rates, the stuff that's going on, but we're going to make it better. And
Well, I mean, it's a connectivity to Brownsville, it's connectivity to our district, and, I mean, we don't fix Gulf Beach Highway, if we don't fix Jackson, going to Myrtle Grove, we're not going to fix anything. So I'm glad that you're doing it.
No, I appreciate the support. So we had a motion, a second, please vote. All right, motion passes 5-0. Let's move on to 902, public forum. Hearing of consideration adoption ordinance creating the Bridle Pines Lade Roadway Improvements Municipal Service Benefit Unit. Do we have, we don't have any speakers?
Move the item.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, please vote. Motion passes 5-0. All right, clerk's report. Okay. Clerk and comptroller's report. Madam Clerk?
Sure, let's do it. We have 3 items on the consent agenda. The first one is the TDT collection for the month of January. So this reflects tourism in our area in December. You'll see that it was up over 5%. The second is the December investment report, and then we have minutes and reports. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Do I have a motion to move the clerk and comptroller's report?
So moved.
Second.
All right, please vote. Motion passes, Commissioner May, 5-0.
Chairman, I will tell you that we have finished our financial audit, which is a 4-month process. It was a very good process. It's a good process working with staff, and we will have a clean opinion. It will be published, but I wanted to tell you we signed off on that on Valentine's Day.
Oh, well, that warms my heart.
Yes,
Thank
it
you very
does.
much. All right, thank you, Pam. All right, we're at GMR. Horace?
Yes, sir. We have 9:15 to a public hearing to review and adopt stormwater quality. Our subject matter experts, the Joiner engineering team, they're here to facilitate this ordinance. To review and
Horace, we have several speakers on GMR-1. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. If I can go through the speakers, Keith Bowe, you're up first, and Chris Kerb, you're second.
Thank you. Good morning again. And for the record, I believe we have weather change. I don't believe in climate change. As sure as we had 3 inches of snow 125 years ago, we're now up to 9 inches of snow this year, and that's a 100-year occurrence. We all know and respect Chris Kerb and the work that he does, and he's got a simple solution to a problem that's going to be coming up here. I don't need to review it. You've all got copies of it, I'm sure. But the point is, in a 24-hour period, we can get 6 inches of rain. We can get 6 inches of rain here in a 2-hour period. So to think that we're going to have a 6-inch drainage liability because of the freeboard around the ponds, where we're going to take private ponds and take the responsibility of becoming a public pond, we need to be looking at exactly what it says here. We need to have a drainage system in the area with no positive drainage outfalls shall be designed for more stringent criteria to include retention up to and including not 24 hours, but 3-day, 7-day, and 10-day, 100-year, or possibly 125-year event. So it's a real no-brainer. We know that Chris knows what he's talking about. This isn't climate change. This is just being prepared. And for the record, I was a Boy Scout. So I thank you. And we need attention brought to this immediately.
Thank you, Keith. Chris, you're up. Mary Konopka, you're on deck.
Well, I forgot to mention at public forum, that I never got around to checking that PE license box. But I reviewed thousands of plans when I was in DRC for 11 years, 7 years in construction management. Oh, I reviewed all of the engineered plans that came through DRC. So, I'm all about your first paragraph in your adopted ordinance, and I've sent y'all emails on it, and even sent you an email this morning. NOAA Atlas 14 using DOT rainfall data is great. That's called modern science. But what's the problem with the ordinance? The second paragraph is the problem. The 6-inch freeboard is the flooding liability to properties around ponds and Escambia County if you accept these ponds for ownership and maintenance. I've drafted up some language that is an option that you could take over. Keith just read it. Why adopt the proposed language? Well, first of all, you need to know what the definition of positive outfall is in your land development code. Ponds with no positive outflow with a 6-inch freeboard standard is arbitrary and capricious. That's a legal term. It's not based off of science, and it's not based off of what DOT has already vetted in their design standards. In 2022, Florida Statute 339.157 required FDOT to prepare a resilience action plan. In their 2024 DOT manual, they published updated design standards. So why don't we go with what DOT has in their design standards? Well, let's give some examples of some closed basins. Well, I told you about Muldoon, Velma, Softly Field, and the Hogan Pit. That's a $20 to $30 million project. They don't have positive outfalls. D3, Ortega Subdivision Pond. We had to expand that pond because it didn't have a positive outfall. D3, Eris Boulevard. Dan Danforth told you about a great product that puts the water in the ground so you don't have to have positive outfall. D5, when Wilson Roberts was commissioner, you had Majestic Oak Subdivision, Country Place North. They didn't have positive outfall, and we had to buy property that HDR designed on North Roberts Circle. And we built a drainage system to give them positive outfall. Chippendale Subdivision, Deidre Avenue Drainage Pond. That was one of your projects, Mr. Barry.
Chris, can you wrap up your thoughts?
Yeah. You got my email.
Thank you, Chris. Mary Canopus, Canopa, I think I'm saying that right. And Austin Tenpenny's on deck. I thought it was Chief.
Yes, Captain, that's correct.
Thank you.
I have some paperwork for y'all. You should have gotten all of this. So my name's Chief Kanopka, HMC USN, retired. I live on Muldoon Road. I'm here about the drainage. Your ordinance amendment to go with FDOT rainfall data is tremendous. That's great. But following that, don't be wishy-washy about the design standards. If you're going to do FDOT rainfall data, do FDOT design. If FDOT design fails, if you have a good grant writer, a good person on staff, you can get Florida State's help, especially if they designed it and it failed, if you went right by specifications. Otherwise, it's wishy-washy. Anybody can design. I mean, private designers, the developers get designers, and you know they're going to squeak by bare minimum because they want the money. They want to pack those units in there and not have good drainage. You talk about economic growth and development in this county. You want to attract people. Well, if you attract them because you have new building around a stormwater pond that's not sufficient and they flood, who's going to talk nice about Pensacola? Especially if they spend a lot of money on their stuff. I can tell you that a freeboard around a pond, if that overflows, it will not allow water to flow back into the pond as the pond perks down. I live right next to a pond. And I can tell you, I wish you guys would come out and look at some of the tiny, worthless ponds there are. I know, Commissioner Stroberger, you should have lots of pictures of flooded areas because of poor pond design that developers, engineers design. Who's out there watching over those developers? You know they're trying to squeeze in every impervious thing they can put on a piece of land. They don't want to do the ponds right. So let's make it. We do FDOT rainfall data, you do FDOT pond designs. And just to wrap it up, I got to read this. I didn't memorize it.
All right, Chief, finish up your thoughts.
Wrapping it up.
Okay.
Chapter 125 of Florida statutes states that the legislature of the state of Florida has conferred upon local governments the authority to adopt regulations designed to promote the public health, safety, and general welfare of its citizenry. The flooding of one's home does not promote public health. It promotes mold, an illness issue. Flooding of the streets does not promote safety when first responders can't get through. Issues caused by flooding, such as property loss, does not promote general welfare.
Thank you very much for your comments. I appreciate it.
FDOT.
Austin, 10 pennies up, and then Tom Hammond's on deck. What's that? Okay.
Hey, good morning. My name is Austin Tenpenny. I'm the president of the Home Builders Association of West Florida. Thank you for your time and allowing me to speak up here. A couple things I want to point out. Contrary to what you hear and see on social media, as a home builder and developer myself, I do care. I truly do care about our community. I'm raising a family in this community, and I love Escambia County, and I want Escambia County to prosper. And I don't want to put my name on anything that would hurt the county. I can point to countless subdivisions that my company has developed and homes that we've built that were designed to current standards and had zero issues. Stormwater is a very complicated subject, and there's not a one-size-fits-all approach. And what is being proposed, I don't necessarily disagree with all of it, but I'm in clear opposition of putting a blanket standard across the board and applying the FDOT data to the stormwater calcs. It's going to greatly increase the cost of these developments, and I could care less about that cost. What I care about is the end consumer. With the Home Builders Association, we are advocating for affordable housing. And right now, we are in a housing affordability crisis. We are getting attacked from all angles at the state and federal level that is increasing the cost of a home. You've got people barking at, for more affordable housing, but then we're putting in regulation that hurts that. Now, does that mean we ignore it and do foolish things that are going to hurt the community and not provide the infrastructure our county needs? No, absolutely not. But we've got to find a more balanced approach. And so on behalf of the Home Builders Association, I'd just like to say we're in clear opposition to this. and I would love the opportunity to work with the board and Mr. Curb and the flood defenders come up with a more balanced approach. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Austin. Tom Hammond, you're up, and then Steve Moorhead, you're on deck.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity. Tom Hammond, Hammond Engineering, and I'm the engineer liaison from the Home Builders Association of West Florida. I sent you an email. I'm going to hit the bullet points on the email. We went through this exercise in Santa Rosa County about a year ago. The fact on the ground is the projects that we're designing now, the IDF curve, the old data, it is old data. It's the old. I went to workshops. I said, hey, it's old data. Can you show us what we're doing on the ground does not work? Nobody could come to the BCC. The county engineer couldn't come back to the BCC and hold up a list of projects done to the 100-year IDF curve, commercial or residential, that were failing due to not having enough volume, zero. Same thing I'm asking here. I've been asking Joy since they started the Design Standard Manual rewrite on this. I said, do we have examples? And really can't point out an example. You need to realize, and you might realize it, but 99% of the projects that get regulated by the Land Development Code and Design Standard Manual are private sector developments. It's not counties building roads and projects. That's who it's going to affect. So I'm asking for proof it doesn't work on the ground. Nobody can do it. Chris Curb can't come up here and name off a list like he did need positive discharge of them old projects.
Chris, please sit down.
He can't come up here and name a list of projects done since we rewrote the code in 2015, 100-year storms using IDF curves. He can't name one. Why would we change it? Why ain't you done it yet? So there's no evidence that the IDF data is insufficient based on what's on the ground. And I would ask this question. If NOAA Atlas 14 data is accurate, why are IDF designed, curve designed ponds not failing? I would ask you to shoot that part down. I'll tell you about the 6-inch freeboard. It's just a safety factor. That's all it is. You get the pond to work, and then you add 6 more inches just in case something else happens beyond the code. Santa Rosa County has a freeboard on all ponds. DOT has a freeboard on all ponds. City of Pensacola has a freeboard on all ponds. So why shoot down a 6-inch safety factor? The only part we're opposed to is NOAA Atlas 14 rainfall data.
Thank you, Tom, and I appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Mr. Moorhead, you're up.
Thank you. Steve Moorhead, 127 Palafox Place, and I'm General Counsel of the Home Builders Association. So I want to reiterate what's been said by Austin Tenpenny and Tom Hammond. Tom Hammond's probably designed more subdivisions in Escambia County in the last 10 years than anyone. He knows what he's talking about. I can understand a bent to want to move towards what's newer data. It makes logical sense to me, but I just want you to be aware of the unintended consequences of moving that way. So what's going to happen is that the ponds are going to get bigger, the subdivisions will get smaller, lots will be reduced, which increases the lot costs across the board, which can be very significant when we're all trying to get affordability, and there's cost increases across the board in development and home building. It's not the developer who's going to take less money, it's just a line item for them. It's going to be taken by the ultimate home buyer. So those holding ponds, as you go around in your districts and see new construction, those ponds that you see are going to get a lot bigger if you pass this ordinance. So I urge you not to. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. That concludes all our speakers. I think our head engineer, Ms. Blackman, is going to present a PowerPoint. Is that correct?
Happy to. If we could, David, get this on the screen for me.
Thank you, Joy.
Try to keep it very brief. I just want to give a little background. The Professional Advisory Committee is made up of several professional engineers and scientists, and Drew Homer also sits on that committee. We just present the topics of concern, let them hear the public's input, and the professional engineering input from the rest of the community. They then take the information and give direction to staff, myself and the other staff members, to make certain language recommendations. So we put together that, we bring it back to them, they wordsmith, we hash it out, listen again to more public input. And in this case, you know, this has been boiling for quite a little while, even before I got back here to Pensacola. So we brought this to them and wanted to let everybody have their chance to discuss it. We had participation, not as much as I'd like, but we did this at 4 different meetings. And I want to let Alan Vinson speak to the actual technicalities of NOAA Atlas 14 and just introduce him as a member of HDR's team. He was hired by my department to give us some background data.
Yeah, Alan Vinson, HDR Engineering. I'm a professional engineer in the state of Florida. So what we were tasked with was comparing what the change from the FDOT-IDF curves to NOAA Atlas 14 would do to county stormwater pond design. You know, we basically ran about 18 different scenarios using wet ponds, dry ponds, different levels of development intensity, good soils, bad soils, and the intent was to come up with, you know, the difference, you know, when you change that 100-year rainfall event. And so the real question here is, what's the best available science? When you look at FDOT-IDF, what it was based off of, first off, it was created in 1979. It was based off of studies that were completed in 1977 and 1961, and it was based off of only 9 data stations in Florida. Most of those stations were situated around the Miami and Jacksonville area, so not even covering the panhandle of Florida. That data, of course, you've all heard, was archived by DOT in January 2024 in their drainage manual. So looking at NOAA Atlas 14, the stations represent 6 southeast states. There's nearly 3,000 data stations, and maybe over 3,000 at this point, with records covering from the 1800s all the way to 2011. Again, the drainage manual removed, you know, basically started to use NOAA Atlas 14 from the 2020 to 2023 timeframe, and then in 2024 they did remove the IDF, archive the IDF curves. So really, when you look at this, it's a matter of the best available science and comparing the 2 data sets. So you can see here the difference in what the county stormwater pond design is. You're looking at the 100-year, 24-hour event duration column. The archive data is at 13.4 inches. That's what we've been designing to for 100-year pond design since the 2015 code change. And then the NOAA Atlas 14 increases that to 16.2 inches. Now, that number is dynamic. When you go to the NOAA Atlas 14 website and pick different locations within the state, within the county, that 16.2 can change. This was a location picked right around I-10. So it's actually dynamic information, not just a curve on a map.
So we tried to just provide all that data so you know the impact of the pond sizes and pond volumes, if you will. And it's theoretical, but using different data sets that would simulate soil conditions, wet ponds, dry ponds, those sorts of things. And overall, the dry pond increase in volume was 8 to 10%, and wet ponds 6 to 15. Now, that can be disputed by other examples, which you've probably seen in your emails or something else, and that's fine. I respect that those guys did their numbers as well. The dry closed basin pond volumes, those get more impact, obviously, because of the volumetric changes that will come there, about 20 to 25% difference. The information that Mr. Curbs brought forward requesting, I just wanted to give you that background as well. Respectfully, that those projects, if we went to 72-hour recovery or duration, excuse me, then we would be in the 30% volume or 50% volume for the 10-day. So, summary, trying to summarize, pull all this together. It is a matter of using the best data. As your county engineer, when the time comes and we have projects of problematic areas, we ask them to go over and above. We have that discretion because you've given in your code that there is a minimum standard. Well, we don't necessarily accept minimum standards for everything. It can be challenging at times, but when working with the engineers and we let them know what the issues of concern are, their liability is at stake. So they listen and they will do more over and above what we ask. In some cases, I can ask for Atlas 14 if I feel like that's necessary. If I feel like they're way off the curve and I want to be sure that everything's safe. So there's that prerogative. It is still a higher level for the Resiliency Act. It is for that. I get that it is the data that's available to us, and we do feel like the federal agencies will likely require it in the future. In conclusion, the PAC recommended the use of the latest data. They adopted that for those particular reasons, and they agreed to the 6-inch freeboard. As Mr. Hammond mentioned, it is a safety factor. I know Mr. Curb disagrees that that's considered a safety factor, but in the calculations that are done for drawdown, engineers are accustomed to hearing that term. It's a safety factor. You have to take the factor that says you're drawing down at this rate and divide it by 2. That's part of the safety factor that's already built in. In addition, we require a 10-day recovery where DOT allows for 30. That's a safety factor. That was chosen as a safety factor. If it's arbitrary and capricious, I'll let Kristen speak to that, but I'm not going to say it is. It's a safety factor we chose. And this is another one. And it is, so I've got 3 on top of it. It's what I'm looking at, and I feel fairly confident in those safety factors. A lot of the projects that are mentioned are retrofit projects, and in your capital project program, that's my responsibility. That's one of the first things that I'm looking for, is those areas that have failed. And in those areas that have failed, we need to make drastic changes. Some of the things you've heard about in the Bellevue area come from ponds that were only designed for treatment, which is ridiculous in this day and age. That's just awful. So we're going back and looking for cooperation from the developer that comes in on Bellevue with the new property and asking them to expand their pond and allow for that subdivision that's adjacent to them to be tied to their pond. They'll all be our pond in the long run. It'll belong to Escambia County. And that will eliminate that particular problem. We'll also work with any new developer in an area where we have problems to provide them the capital for the equipment or the materials rather, and they'll do the labor to tie in to an existing system that we already have that's problematic, and they'll help us by expanding that system. I feel like we have a good relationship in those areas, and I feel like new development is not where our problems lie. Our problems are in what I take personally as what we need to fix, the retrofit of everything before 2014. That's still a very long list. It is a very long list. And I appreciate Mr. Curb's support in those areas, without a doubt. And I will look to all those projects that he mentioned and make sure that I'm aware of them, that Matt Skipper is working them. He's your Stormwater Division Manager for me, and continue to do that. So I just wanted to address those particular concerns. Not to defend the recommendation, but only to let you know that is our goal. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. Does the board have any, Commissioner Berry, you have a comment or question?
Yeah, if you don't mind. Thank you, Joy. And it seems like this is the product of a lot of work and time and effort that's been put into just the design standards manual. I really do concur with a lot of the comments that Joy made toward the end of the presentation. Not necessarily part of the PowerPoint, but one of the things that Commissioner May and I dealt with 10 years ago was the flood from April of 2014, which was presumably probably good for some businesses, but very bad for a lot of our public. But we made some dramatic changes in the design standards for ponds, going from a 25-year pond to a 100-year pond, and there are still a lot of stormwater issues in the county, but it does seem like the the vast majority, if not exclusively, related to retrofitting previously done areas. You know, I have a number of, you know, stormwater issues and a number of drainage issues in District 5, and those projects were, you know, done in the 80s or done in the 90s, and you know, so the majority of them even before Hurricane Ivan, you know, 10 years before the flood. So I'm on board with everything that's being proposed, except for the adoption of the Atlas data as well. I concur with the comments from Mr. Tenpenny, Mr. Moorhead, and Tom Hammond. I'm good with everything else. If we just don't include that data, I think, you know, sometimes the board can, you know, the board or interested parties, you know, can make an effort to, you know, find a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. And I don't think the projects that have been designed with the 100-year storm ponds are not the problems. It's not to say there aren't problems, but I don't think that those that have been designed in the last 8 or 10 years are the problem. You know, the board has dedicated millions and millions of dollars to trying to fix drainage problems, but these are retrofitting areas that were done decades ago. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm good with everything save the Atlas data.
Any other comments? Commissioner May, you have something you want to add?
No, Joy, just a quick question, because we've talked about it forever, you know.
Yes.
Kind of related to the ordinance, but not directly related to the ordinance. It probably affects, Commissioner, actually probably affect us more because we have a scarcity of land. And I keep yelling that I don't want any more holes in my district. I'm sick of holding ponds, these big, massive, you know, ponds that, you know, we don't even have the ability to keep cut. Why aren't we encouraging more? And obviously, I know the response is going to be expense. But land is getting more expensive. Land is getting scarce. And the beautification 10, 20 years down the road of how we want our community to look, rather than have a community full of holes. Why aren't we encouraging more underground filtration like they do in major urban cities where they don't have land? And that would happen in Perdido. That would happen on Pensacola Beach. I mean, we just keep digging holes and holes and holes. And that's great in the north end with Commissioner Berry, where land is cheap, but where we're trying to grow a city, I mean, why aren't we putting some teeth or some incentives into underground filtration in chambers here in Escambia County? I mean, because I'm a part of the city. I know the city has its own codes, but I am a part of an urban core that all I have is infield. I don't have any, I mean, my last development is happening in Inslee. There will not be any more new development in District 3, but it will be retrofits, as you said, and we do have significant amount of flooding problems. I'm dealing with one, as you know, on Oakfield right now, on a public piece of land that I've taken a beating from all week long. That, to me, that would have been a perfect example, even though more cost, it would have been a perfect example of an underground filtration that would not have disrupted a park, would not have had the neighbors upset. It might have cost a little bit of money on the front end, but on the back end, it would have been able to add value to those residents over there on Oakfield. So, I mean, that's kind of, you know, I'm trying, as we move forward with whatever ordinance we're going, I mean, those are the type of conversations, and Joy, you've been gone, you're back, that I've said from the beginning, you know, and then this week it hit me in the face, you know, and it came back to me from an engineer. This would have been a perfect underground filtration project, all it would have cost. So I just wait on response, Joy. I mean, because that's for me in my district, and, you know, if it costs a couple extra $100,000, and I'm not saying put that on the private developers, I'm saying, but when we have a public project where I'm going to eliminate a public park, I don't know why, if I got to spend a few extra dollars to make residents, because they're actually paying for it, it's their tax dollars that's paying for it.
Totally understand what you're trying to say, and we certainly will take a look at those methodologies for different areas in the future. We have been doing some things on the most cost-effective manner, and we should look at what the cost-benefit analysis should be as well, not just cost-effectiveness. So
Right.
We'll take that into consideration in future projects.
And Mr. Chairman, I just want to have that at a committee of the whole. As you said, we keep talking about what's cheaper is not better. You know, we're not trying to be a cheap county. We're trying to be an effective, progressive, attractive county that's going to have growth. I mean, we're projected to that growth. So, I mean, you know, I'm not always looking for what's cheaper. I mean, we had millions and millions of ARPA dollars millions that we had to expend very quickly and get it out on the ground very quickly and, very hastily. But we could have been, not just hastily, we could have been, in my opinion, more innovative in what we're doing here.
As we move forward, the other phase of that project, we'll definitely provide those options because we won't be on the tight timeline that we had for ARPA. But backtracking into it, yes, it's cost. You probably know better than I, probably 5 to 10 times as much on just per acre foot. But we'll look at what that means and do a cost-benefit analysis because what matters is the overall value we bring to the community.
Right, yeah, of course it costs more. I mean, but I can just show you, Belmont, the village where I live, Five Sisters, it's underground filtration. I mean, what's more, parking's expensive,
It's certainly a benefit in some areas that we're seeing several commercial sites that have been using them. So we are seeing it being used more. Maybe the cost will come down.
Right, yeah, and all I'm asking the chair, Joy, to do is allow for you to come and give us a cost-benefit analysis. Because, right, it may cost, on the front end, $250,000 more. I don't know, it may cost $100,000 more. But what does it cost 10, 15, 20 years down the road? Mowing, cutting, erosion, sod. I mean, we have to factor in all the variables when we're talking about stormwater and filtration and how we store water and how we move water. And I would just want us to be more innovative and at least exploring those ideas. As Chris said, people come down with all these hydros and suggestions. I'm not an engineer. I don't know if they work. I hear about them for 3 minutes. But at some point, I think stewardship requires me to ask staff to come up with some better ideas than holes. I mean, I don't want these holes in District 3. I got enough. I can't even get them maintained. I don't want any of these big holes in District 3. I mean, put them where whoever else wants them, put them there. But for District 3, I would like to see, underground filtration.
Is there any other comments? I have a couple of questions. Do you have something, Commissioner Hopper?
I would just like to thank Joy and her team for putting all this together. I know that wasn't easy, and you took a lot of input from the community and professionals, and you presented it in a way that us without engineering degrees understood. So I really do appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
Joy, I have just a couple questions, which, one, I just don't understand. I'm trying to conceptualize what 6 inches of freeboard in a pond is, with the home, but what does that actually, I don't know what that means.
Well, in terms of the design of the ponds, there's a required volume that we're speaking to make sure that it attenuates the storm or retains the storm event. What we do is tell them, in addition to that, add 6 inches to the top of the pond. In other words, dig it 6 inches deeper. You get that much more volume across the top of the pond and that much more storage.
Okay, so that would work for a dry pond, not a wet pond, because the
Yes,
water
sir.
basin, okay.
Yes, sir.
The second thing I have an interest in is this unique to our county or other counties taking on these standards independently, or is the state trying to regulate this? I mean, is there a mandate anywhere?
This is the state of Florida's DOT design standard, and so it's statewide when you are connecting to a stormwater system that is theirs to maintain and operate. In addition, there's been some conversation, I think this might be causing a little confusion, the Water Quality Act that the state has, the governor has signed, but he's also given a grace period of 1 year. At the end of this year, there's a Water Quality Act that goes into effect that pretty much overshadows everything we're talking about today. If that goes into effect, then the volume significantly changes for everybody's ponds because they're going to try to bring about water quality changes to with new development to make up for what old developments have already done. And it's going to be pretty intense in terms of the mechanisms that are necessary to do those things, to scrub, if you will, filter out water before it goes into the systems. It's going to be high maintenance. It's going to be high volumes, and Alan's looked at some volume calculations on that too, if you want to talk about it some more.
Well, it would, and I'm not trying to delay anything, but would it be worthy to wait to see that passes before we move forward with this?
Joy, I was going to ask you, would we have to revisit this if those new standards are implemented at the state level. I mean, because I know it's almost like an unfunded mandate. We're going to have to adhere to it. It's not going to even be our decision. I mean, we're going to have to do what the state says. And so will we be revisiting this, you know, a year from now when those standards come down?
Can I add?
Yeah,
I mean, you guys need to make the recommendation.
Try.
So currently, what takes up most of your pond volume is attenuation. You're basically letting, you run a 100-year storm event, and you make the calculation to let water back out into the environment like it would have before the site got developed, right? What the states go into is called nutrient-based criteria, and what that's going to require is a whole higher level of treatment, which is going to have a substantial effect on pond volume. So in a lot of cases, what we're seeing is that removal of those nutrients and the volume of ponds will, basically that the treatment criteria will now control instead of the attenuation criteria, which is really what we're talking about with this, the 100-year, whether we use no Atlas 14 or the IDF curves. So that is coming, and it will have a significant effect.
To your point, if the governor still allows this to go through, and I think that's a big if, he may decide differently. I, of course, haven't spoken to him, but I'm just only saying it's a pretty intense change, and I think that there wasn't a lot of time to look at it, and that's why he allowed for a grace period. So if this were to go through as it stands today, yes, we will be looking at this again. But I would probably, it gets complicated. I would, like Alan was explaining, the treatment volume will be so great, attenuation won't even be a conversation anymore. It will overshadow everything we're doing, and we won't, if we meet their standard, we will blow our attenuation away.
Wow, okay. Commissioners, I'll go to Stroberger and then back to you and then to Hoffberger, if that's okay. Go ahead, Commissioner Stroberger.
I've been talking about hardening our Escambia from stormwater ever since I got here, I think. I've been hearing arguments on both sides. I don't disagree with anything I've heard from Commissioner Berry about this, but I just feel like I need more time to kind of digest this. I think I talked to you about that, Joy. I think there's great arguments here, and I hear key words, and I hear about, affordable housing not becoming affordable, and rising water and all that stuff. And I think, man, we need to talk about this. I think this is like a cow discussion for me. I don't know if I can get to a decision today, but I think I have a decision. I don't know if we're planning on voting on it.
We'll stir in discussion, so we'll see where we end up. Commissioner May?
No, and Steve, you probably have more of the vacant land and more subdivisions, and I certainly agree with your friendly amendment, but you're probably closer to Tallahassee and stormwater, so I'm just love to get your opinion. I mean, because I don't even want any holes. I mean, so.
Yeah, I'm comfortable making a decision. I mean, the decisions that we make often get changed by outside factors. If we wanted to wait, that's fine too. I mean, you try to think about what's the cost of waiting. Again, I don't think the projects that are getting put on the ground right now that are adhering to the standards that we have, that are, they're undergoing inspections and things are happening. In my opinion, I think things are happening the way that they're supposed to be. I don't think we're having a great issue with things that are getting put on the ground. So if we were to, maybe wait at least through the session and see what happens, that's okay. And then, maybe bring it back in the summertime for a committee of the whole based on, what some of our friends in Tallahassee say. Maybe that's reasonable. And if the majority of the board wanted to try to take action on it today, I'd be comfortable taking action as well. I just wouldn't support the Atlas data being included. I could support everything short of that, or support waiting for the summertime, or whatever the majority of the board would like to do. I can live with.
So, I mean, and I certainly support, and if you need a second on that amendment, if it becomes a motion, I'd second to do it. I agree with Commissioner Stroberger. you know, as we bring up affordable housing and the uncertainty of Tallahassee, you know, it could be prudent to at least wait. I mean, not only with what's going to happen at session, but also what's going to happen with interest rates, what's going to happen in the housing market, you know, and what's going to happen, you know, with inflation. I mean, it could have a direct effect. So, I mean, I certainly think it's prudent, Commissioner. If you and Commissioner Berry or want to wait, y'all probably would find my support. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Hopper?
I agree with all of those items as well, but my question is, do we have a cost analysis of what it's going to cost the county if the Clean Water Act does go through?
I have not, Commissioner, and I appreciate the question. We've started some conversation with our PAC team, and we want to identify the mechanisms that are required to actually do the filtration. We work with our neighborhood environmental services divisions and departments, and determine what those costs might be, because we've never seen it before in our area. So I don't have that information yet.
Okay, do we want to talk about when we might want to set a date for that if the grace period runs out at the end of the year? Do we want to wait till the end of session and then revisit?
I should wait in the session.
Okay.
I think after listening to the comments, and I agree with, it's funny, what Commissioner Berry, when you said new neighborhoods, I agree. I looked at all the areas, which I wrote down about 7 of them, from Forest Creek to Lake Charlene. They're all established neighborhoods that flood out. None of the new developments I don't think have had an issue. It's all the established neighborhoods. But I don't want more regulation. If the state's going to mandate us to do something, I think we should wait to session and proceed as told. I know home rule seems like it keeps getting farther and farther away, but I would be willing to wait if the board is as well.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we'll still have property taxes to fund our operations at that time. But if there's not tremendous objection, I would move to just drop the 9:15 hearing today and bring back the discussion at a time to be determined in the future.
Is that your motion?
Yes.
Second that.
All right, please vote. Motion passes 5-0. We'll revisit this and hopefully this summer.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Joy, just a quick question. Thank you for all your hard work and bringing this forward. We appreciate it. When you obviously we have our consultants, and as you're crafting language and doing analysis, was it a group, the stakeholders, was it people like Tom Hammond and Austin and all those guys, and the activists like Chris, were they all a part of the discussion?
They were participating at the PAC meetings. The language was mostly driven by the PAC members telling staff what they wanted to hear, and then wordsmithing it.
Okay, so we got we had stakeholders' input, basically.
Yes, sir.
And
Input, and there are the PAC members.
Yeah,
They are
but-
stakeholders as well.
And I think, probably, not just waiting until the legislator makes a decision. Probably if we could continue those meetings with those stakeholders for input, we can all be properly, informed and educated when it hits, particularly without, in the words of Gene Valentino, our subject matter experts assisting us for free. So we do appreciate those guys with those expertise. So.
Yes, sir. Will do. Thank you.
All right, if that's all comments, I think we can move forward to scheduling public hearing, GMAR 2, 1, consent agenda.
Move the consent agenda.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, please vote. All those vote passes 5-0. Thank you. County Administrator with the current technical public service consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are 5 items on the technical public service consent agenda. There are no changes and there are no speakers.
I move that, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Budget
Thank you,
and
Mr.
Finance.
Chairman. There are 36 items on the budget finance consent agenda. There are no changes and no speakers.
Move the budget and finance.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Please vote. Motion passes 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, there are 3 items on my discussion agenda. CAR 3-1 is a recommendation concerning appointments to the West Florida Public Library Board of Governance, and you will need to make a selection for a volunteer.
Just select one, Wes?
Just one. Oh, sorry. What do we have?
Mr. Chairman, we have one vote for Charlotte Sweeney, one vote for Joyce Hobson, one vote for Jennifer Trewick, one vote for Kasha Gauntlet, and one vote for Russell James.
Okay.
Well, here we go.
And one vote has to change. How do we move forward with this? Do we vote on the 5 we have? What do y'all want to do?
Mr. Chairman, I guess we would have another ballot and just ignore the other names.
Yep.
only, so- Okay.
Okay.
The ones that didn't get any votes, stretch them out.
Sure. Okay, so we can move forward with that, and then we'll vote again. That's interesting. You got 9 candidates. It's a lot of qualified candidates. So for all those that applied, thank you. It's obviously, actually, I read all the bios yesterday. There was a lot of qualified folks.
Todd, are any of the names currently active in the library?
None of them have volunteered at programs or anything, so these are just members of the community that have
Oh,
put
they
their
hadn't
names
volunteered
forward.
at all?
Not that I'm aware of, possibly through the Friends group, but not anything directly for the library.
Hey,
A lot of passion of them.
Is any of the
volunteers.
folks that were voted on in the audience by chance? I just thought I'd give them an opportunity to present it, why they would want to be on the board, but I guess they're not here, okay?
I do know that 2 of them had previous experience as
Yeah,
librarians.
I saw that.
There you go, buddy.
All right, round 2.
Mr. Chairman, so
Yes,
I'm
Mr. May.
gonna have a hard stop at 11 o'clock. So, and I know there's some items that we want to get to particularly. So, if we get closer, particularly to the number 3 concerning the employment contract of the county administrator, I'd like to get it before I leave at 11. If we don't see that, we're gonna get
I
there.
actually think we'll probably be done by 11.
Okay.
Unless you have a lot to say.
No, I don't know about that. If
On
we go
work
past
count,
11,
you
I
lead,
will.
you know that, right?
Right.
Mr. Chairman, we have one vote for Charlotte Sweeney, 3 votes for Joyce Hobson, and 1 vote for Jennifer Trewick.
Okay, well, congratulations to Joyce Hobson. She's got the job.
There she go.
Make a motion to appoint
Yep, please.
Joyce Hobson.
Second.
Please vote. Sorry about that. 5-0 for Joyce Hobson.
And
Motion
Commissioner
passes.
Berry, can I confirm that your motion includes A as well, sir?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
John, I'm going to step forward. Mr. Chairman and Board, I'd like to present my selection as Chief Information Officer for Escambia County, Mr. John Irar. He comes with experience from the largest judicial circuit in the state of Minnesota, reporting to the Chief Judge and numerous judges and court administrator there in that circuit. He has a wealth of knowledge and history and background in IT and cybersecurity. And I'm asking the board for a vote to ratify his selection as Chief Information Officer this morning.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Welcome to Escambia County, sir.
Thank you.
Hopefully, you have anything you want to say? Is your vision and
Just very briefly, I just want to say thank you, County Administrator Moreno, for that introduction, those kind words, and the great honor of serving the citizens and staff of Escambia County. County board members, I want to express my appreciation for this remarkable and exciting opportunity to help lead Escambia County thoughtfully forward into the digital world. The digital services we provide our citizens that help drive the delivery of many county services are critical to the data needs of our citizenry and vital to our continued success. As your new CIO, I will advance a service model based on a shared vision, a shared purpose, and a shared responsibility. Security and resiliency is the bedrock of what drives uninterrupted and reliable digital services, and I'll be obsessively focused on those operational principles. I look forward to working with all of you, reaching out, listening to your ideas, thoughts, and feedback on how we can improve our performance and leverage technology in the most secure, efficient, and innovative manner possible. County IT, through our talented managers and staff, will be working hard to build and keep your trust, provide responsive support to our customers, and raise your level of confidence in our capabilities as we face new opportunities and urgent challenges. Thank you again, County board members and Wes, for this great opportunity to serve our citizens, constitutional offices, agencies, and lines of business. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome aboard. I know I'd like to get with you in the next week or two and just hear about what your hobbies are, if you have pets.
Certainly.
You know, everything about you. But again, thank you, and I look forward to working with you, sir.
Thank you, John.
Welcome, John.
Thank you.
Card 3-3 is discussion concerning the Chaffee James Memorial, and we do have one speaker, Mr. David Bear.
David, please come up. Morning.
Good morning. Commissioners, thank you for this opportunity. I wanted to speak, obviously we had a TDC meeting on Tuesday. Commissioner Strohberger referred to that this morning in his opening remarks, and I just want to make sure that the record is straight on several different items. Number one, previously when the Tourist Development Council took action to recommend the $750,000 appropriation for this project, that was conditional. It was contingent on the Attorney General of Florida coming back with an opinion saying it was eligible for funding using the tourist development tax. They did not make an opinion. They have since sent back 2 letters saying they need more information. Number one, is it going to be publicly owned? And then the other was that the statute talks about how you may use tourist development tax dollars to fund construction projects. And the other thing was, let me back up. Was it going to be publicly owned? If it is publicly owned, does the governing body, the county commission, determine it to be tourism development? So you guys, I understand that the mayor's office is saying that if they commit the dollars, that they will commit that it will be publicly owned and maintained, so that it resolves that issue. This board still needs to determine whether or not it is, its primary purpose is for the development of tourism. And once you do that, then you have to determine, can those dollars be spent for marketing and or construction? And under the statute related to tourist development tax, it enumerates what may be, the tax may be used for construction and promotion. And they enumerate different items in the statute on what may be, the tax may be used for construction. It does not say a plaza. It specifically says convention centers, sports stadiums, sports arenas, coliseums, and atriums. auditoriums, excuse me, auditoriums, aquariums, and museums. And this plaza does not fit within any one of those categories. Further down in the statute under the authorized uses, it talks about being able to use these dollars to construct public facilities, and then it defines what a public facility is. And it says, as used in the subparagraph, the term public facilities means major capital improvements that have a life expectancy of 5 or more years, including but not limited to transportation, sanitary sewer, solid waste, drainage, potable water, and pedestrian facilities. And so are those things, is this plaza one of those things or like one of those things? I don't believe so. So where within the statute does it fall that you may use tourist development tax dollars for the construction of a plaza? It doesn't. It may be used for the promotion of that plaza, so long as you guys make the local legislative determination that it is tourism development. It may be used for marketing, but not for construction.
Okay. Well, Mr. Bear, I appreciate it. I listened to it last night. I was watching you on TV, the board meeting. I put on the agenda. Obviously, I called you with Kristen the other day to get your opinion because I value you as the chairman. But I do think, I squeezed both Kristen as well as Cody on this issue for a legal opinion. I'm not a lawyer. And I think that's where I'd like to have the board have the discussion, where you originally was. And I do agree with you, plaza, I agree is the wrong word. But I'm not sure, after talking to legal, and our legal, and the clerk's legal, that we can't get there. And I think that's why we need to have that discussion here to see. I'd like to get there. I'm not trying to take any more. I saw that you guys rescinded the vote. I don't think, I mean, you originally voted for it. But I think, I had a meeting both with, I called you, then we had a meeting with all the players. The mayor, as you know, has given a verbal agreement to take ownership. I saw you voted for the Haas study yesterday. I think the county, I met with Stefan yesterday with Wes, and think the county needs to have more flesh in the game. And I also think the foundation needs to come up with a little more money, and I've told them that. So here's what I think. And Kristen, this is where legally I think it's important that we get everything out, and then I'm going to ask the clerk if she agrees with where we're at, so that it's out and open and we all agree or disagree, right?
Right.
So, Kristen, when we talked, and when I talked to Allison prior to that, I was under the assumption that if this was a venue or a museum, and the venues could be used as capital improvements for this project. Do you agree with that?
I've stated many times over that this does not squarely fall within any one of those subsections. However, if you are intending to proceed under 5A3 for the promotion and advertisement of tourism and considering this a venue, then at a minimum, in order to support a legislative finding that this would in fact promote tourism, we would need documentation of public ownership, which would mean the city must be the applicant and the recipient of the funding. We would need an independent economic analysis to support a finding that this in fact does promote tourism as it's defined in the statute.
Okay, let's stop there, because that's where I've been told that now more than once. Do you agree with that? And do you agree or not? That's where the impasse is, David.
Well, I'm not sure there's an impasse. I think there's just a misunderstanding. So Section 5A3 talks about the promotion and advertising of the venue. It doesn't talk about construction of the venue. In the statute, it talks about construction in sections 5A1, 5A1A, B, and C. Section 2, Section 3, and Section 4 talk about promotion. Section 5 talks about funding beach park facilities, and Section 6 talks about construction of a public facility, like, the sewer, transportation, solid waste. So I do agree with with what Ms. Huell just said, that subsection 5A 3
yeah.
does say to promote and advertise tourism in the state and nationally and internationally. And I also agree with the Attorney General's opinion about that, where they also go in further and say they said the statute defines promotion as marketing and advertising designed to increase tourist-related business activities. It doesn't say construction. There is a difference between construction and marketing, and they define it in the statute. The Attorney General, in a previous Attorney General opinion from 1998 for Orlando, related to Orlando County Courthouse they wanted to use tourist development tax to fund an all wars memorial next to the Orange County Courthouse after they rebuilt it, said, when a statute enumerates things upon which it operates, it is ordinarily construed to exclude from its operations all things not expressly mentioned. And this statute, and the Attorney General opinion about this project says a plaza, in parentheses on page 3, a plaza is not one of those enumerated items.
Well, I agreed the word plaza is wrong, but I also agree in legal terms, lawyers technically use words that have to be argued in front of judges because it benefits their pocketbook. and that's
Well,
just
this is the Florida legislature who said these things.
I agree with the word plaza. Commissioner May, you had your line up first, and Commissioner Hopper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Cole, I'm sorry. So,
No, I mean, but I think it's in the backup.
I guess a couple questions in. So, Mr. Bear just said that the Attorney General sent some findings. Were they expecting us to respond to those findings for clarification, or is that a standing opinion from the Attorney General?
The Attorney General did not give an opinion. We did provide additional information. They provided a subsequent letter in which they said, we still do not have enough information to render an opinion. And to date, we do not have documentation that we can provide to give them any additional information.
So in your opinion, sorry, Mike, is it legal or is it illegal for us to fund it? I mean, that's, to me, it's as black and as white as it
It's not
gets.
that simple,
It ain't that simple.
no.
So when can we get that clarification? Because that's what I have to know that the
I would love to
vote.
get an opinion from the Attorney General, but
If they're not
But
going
an
to get it,
opinion's
though.
not required,
Kristen,
right?
what if we move forward with this?
But oh,
I'm sorry.
Please, I just want to get my
Does the board
clarification.
have the discretion to make a legislative determination? Yes, but it should be supported by something.
So if we
I think I
put
have
forth
an
a
idea.
request, for an Attorney General opinion, and have we not gotten that, or have we gotten it? And
That's correct. We've asked for one, and they could not give us one.
so do we anticipate that they will give us one?
No, not unless we're able to give them additional information. And one key piece of that is proof that the city is going to own and maintain the property and the improvements.
So to get, and I know that I have two colleagues who are very passionate about, to get to where we need to be to support this, what do we need? Proof from the city, and what else do we need to make this, to make a vote that's legal and binding and that falls within
It
the...
depends upon which subsection. If you're going to fall under 5A3, then I stated the three things I thought at a minimum could support such a legislative determination. Proof of ownership.
So we need
city
proof of ownership from the
applicant,
city.
and an independent economic analysis.
So they're doing an economic analysis right now, is what I understand, correct? That's what the TDC, right? Isn't that what they said, that they were going to do that? Mr. Bear said, so that's one. The other one is ownership. I don't know why we can't immediately get ownership from the mayor. I mean, that's an
He's
email.
verbally already told me, and we move forward with the study. So I think I'm ready to move forward with this on the
I mean, if he's going to
contingencies.
give us that, I mean, that's two. The mayor's going to give it, like you said.
Him telling you something verbally, and then if it sounds as if, there's still an intent to try to get a determination out of the Attorney General. If he's willing to give you that verbally, why wouldn't he put it in writing, and then that can be included in the request? That's what the Attorney General is at.
Well, we wouldn't use
This
the
is not my
funds.
deal, but that's what it sounds like the Attorney General is asking for, is something in documentation. They moved forward with the independent analysis. You get Mayor Reeves to send something in writing that says that they're going to own it. That's.
And then what's the
Well,
third
I would
thing?
like to move forward
And
like
then- and what's
this,
the
where
third thing?
We make the contingency that it's it's out of the county and it's on the city, and if they don't get the money. I mean, we can move forward, and if the Attorney General doesn't want to make an opinion, I think they're probably saying the board needs to make an opinion.
That's exactly right.
So, I mean, I'm just trying to get to the third thing. A commitment from the mayor, and I see a council person here. Could you please ask the mayor to say yea or nay, or I'll walk over to the city today. Actually, just put it in writing. I mean, I'm willing to walk out of this meeting and go see DC and for him to do that. We're waiting on the study that Councilman Bear put forth. And what's the third thing? Because I just want to get it off first base,
Commissioner.
Steve. I'm ready to go.
I'm ready to go too.
I mean,
The
so what's
city-
what?
The city would have to be the applicant and the recipient, and
Okay, so we just need the mayor to say that he would accept the funds.
the complication there is that the stewardship agreement requires city council approval, so the mayor cannot,
Yes, it's true.
cannot solely be the
Okay.
one to make
Okay.
that commitment.
Well, we can just take it to the city council. When do y'all have another meeting, council person? Would you put it on the agenda? Yeah, if you put it on the agenda, then we get that. Those are the three things, and then we can get this moving.
I actually
mean,
think we can move forward with the contingencies,
I
and
mean,
if they don't meet them, then they don't get the money. It's, for me, it's a leadership thing, and I think the clerk and Cody, I had
Steve,
them pulled in for an
Mike, can I
audit.
just say one other thing, and then I'll be done with my conversation? I'm willing, I want to do what's legal and what's going to be paid and what's going to go, but Commissioner Stroberg, I'm committed. All of us have discretionary money, probably to the tune of $10 million. It would be, if we can't get this off base for TDC dollars, I'm willing to commit $150,000 of my discretionary out of my LOST to move this forward. Because
Well, I
mean,
am too. That was gonna be in my motion.
We move people down here over and over. We talked about this in perpetuity. It's that important to me. A great American, a great African American, a leader of this community. He deserves to be recognized. His family does not deserve for us to continue to have outline Field 8 discussion year after year after year. And
Well,
so I'm willing
Commissioner
to-
May, I promise you I'm going to make a motion today,
I
and
mean,
it's going to
so
land where it lands.
Mr. Chairman, so your reference to leadership, a leadership decision, I think that's accurate. There are multiple bodies of leadership. It's clear that there are some things that are needed from the city and from the mayor and the city council.
But
They're in
those don't
leadership-
have to be
They're in
before
leadership
us.
positions as well. They're in leadership positions as
Amen.
well.
I agree.
So-
But their action doesn't need to precede ours. Why would we require that?
That was one of their requests at the TDC meeting. Also, looking at the Attorney General's letter, we can't use the money for the plaza, but I believe we can use it to construct a statue. So it might behoove the group to take and ask for the money specifically for the statue versus the entire plaza. Just throwing that out there. That's how I read it, so you guys might want to look at that as another option.
Okay,
Commissioner Stroberger.
it's not a plaza. Let's not call it a plaza. We can call it anything we want to. The local governing body decides. I don't believe we need an opinion from the Attorney General. So we can decide that. And I think we know who's going to own it? If you look at the stewardship agreement, it says the city of Pensacola all over it, as far as I can see. I don't need a study to tell me that this is going to promote tourism. If we need to spend money on it to promote tourism, we can do that. I think people will come to see this. If I cross the Chappie James Bridge and I see this thing, Chappie James looks like a damn superhero when you come across that bridge. And I'm going to say, who the heck is that guy? And I'm going to stop and I'm going to see it. And I think it's going to promote tourism. I really do. And we're the ones who make that decision. So let's decide on that.
All right. I'd like the clerk or Cody to make a comment, because here's the thing. No matter where we end up, I got to make sure that she would fund it, and I want that on the record, and then I'll come to you, okay? Everyone's got to have a voice. Madam Clerk?
This is going to be so simplified, but when I first looked at this, I immediately thought, this is an open-air museum. That was, over a year ago? How long have we been talking about this? It is the legislative finding that you need to make. This is tourism. To get off ground zero, there does have to be ownership through the city. There does have to be the feasibility study. I do not believe you have to go back to the Attorney General. I believe that this board can handle it. I believe you understand the terminology, and I believe you need to check a couple of boxes. That sounds very simple, but that's where I stand.
Well, I appreciate that on the record. Cody, did you have a comment or anything you wanted to say? I didn't know you looked like.
I don't.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't have anything to add. I think the study that Kristen has mentioned, that your county attorney has mentioned, I think is an important piece.
See, this is the issue. I brought all these lawyers in for a reason, to make sure that we're on the same sheet. But Stefan, I want you to make a comment because you're biting at the, what's your take?
Commissioners, I just want to give you an update regarding the independent economic analysis. So I did speak with Haas at UWF yesterday, and I expect to have that analysis roughly within a week. So I just want to give the board that information.
Okay. I'll give you, since the foundation, I'll give them a minute to talk, and then I will let you say a final word. David, is that fair? Or do you want to go after them? I don't really care. Your call. Okay, go ahead.
I can go real quick. So I just had a couple of points I wanted to make. Number one, when you make the motion, I think it's important to determine under which subsection of the statute you're talking about using the tourist development tax for the construction of this project. Number two, I want to make sure we're not conflating a couple of things, because it sounds like Commissioner Strohberger is. I think General Chappie James is a war hero that needs to be celebrated. I too think this is a wonderful project. I have personally put funds and donated to this project.
Thank you.
And I think he was a war hero, and I would love to see him when I come across that bridge. I just don't believe tourist development tax dollars may be spent under the statute for this type of project. And finally, the legislative determination about whether this is tourism development goes to, and the study, economic impact study, goes to support the spending of the tourist development tax for the promotion of this plaza once it's constructed, so that we can attract those tourists. We can market this as a destination, because I too believe this is a marketable destination facility. I think it is. And so I just want to make sure that that's on the record. I don't want to conflate two things, whether we're voting against this wonderful war hero because we don't want to fund this project. Those are two separate items.
Sure.
So anyway, thank you for the time.
And I appreciate your comments. And I appreciate what the board put out yesterday. I know you have 4 new board members, so it's like anything, people, learning, and I got it. I watched it, like I said, last night at 10:30, so thank you.
David, can I do one quick question for Mr. So if the study is not justification for the construction, why did the TDC move to do the study?
So we were asked to move to do the study, and the study will determine whether this project itself can generate an economic impact to the surrounding area through the tourism development. Not construction, not necessarily marketing, but if it is, if tourist development tax dollars are going to be spent, whether it's construction, if that's legal, or marketing of this venue, then the study will show whether or not it has an economic impact on the surrounding area. If it comes back and says yes overwhelmingly, then that's clear. It's a great ROI for the use of it for marketing, for sure. If it comes back and says no, then we shouldn't use the tourist development tax dollars to market it.
And Christian, you say we have to have that, right? I mean, it's your legal opinion that we have to have this
I am
economic.
strongly recommending it
Okay. You're recommending because.
to support a legislative determination.
So, I mean, I guess my clarification would be, because I hear my colleague to my left saying she's recommending, recommendation or required, this study?
It is not required under the statute. Only the provision that pertains to public facilities requires a study, but it is my recommendation.
So would we have to, so they moved to do the study, would that still come before this board, or they have jurisdiction to commission that?
The TDC has approved it, and we've already commissioned the study. It should be finished in a week.
And it didn't have to come before the Board of County Commissioners?
I'm sure you'll be advised of the outcome. I can certainly.
But I'm saying for the
recommend information.
expenditure, that expenditure didn't have to come before the board, right, David?
Generally, it should, because we can only make recommendations for expenditures. We can't, the TDC can't actually spend the money.
Oh, really?
All right.
I think it's about
Can
a
I let
$1,500 study.
Okay.
In the interest of
I
Commissioner
don't
May,
know.
you still
I
got to
mean,
leave at 11, because if you.
I mean, I don't know if I'm gonna leave at 11
You know,
now.
I need you here.
No,
All
we're
right,
gonna
I'm
be here
let-
2 o'clock.
Hold
That's
on.
how long we're gonna be here.
Mr. Joseph, Stefan, I want him to make a comment because he came up, and then I will allow you, okay, out of clarity. And thank you again, Mr. Bear, for your comments. I truly appreciate them.
So Commissioners, and certainly to address Commissioner May, in my conversation, this analysis, this economic analysis would be at no cost to the county. So I did want to mention that. That was my conversation yesterday.
Okay, thank you.
Well, good. Well, we can wait on that study then.
Well,
No cost, great.
Go ahead.
Commissioner
Mr.
Kohler, I would strongly recommend that you make this motion or make this vote happen. Keep in mind, plaza is a word.
I know.
We always intended for this to be, for all practical purposes, an open-air museum. It wasn't just simply for recognizing General James, but there are other people within this community that never came home. One of those individuals is Lieutenant Polkinghorn. His remains are somewhere in Italy, yet to be found, as a Tuskegee Airman. Those are the types of things that we wanted to incorporate within this plan to illustrate to the children and to people in this community the sacrifices made by the people from Pensacola and the surrounding areas. So whether you have a museum within the confines of a wall with a ceiling is inconsequential. This will be an open-air museum. So let's take away this word plaza.
But Chris,
in fact, let's remove it.
Mr. Dawes, if it's a play on words, why didn't you just change it from plaza
Exactly.
to museum
Then
when you presented it? I mean, why we keep talking about a plaza
Well, because
then
I
if
never
it's not a
thought
plaza?
that word would be a point of contention, right? Because after all, it is a plaza, but in the big scheme of things, it truly is a museum. So,
I mean, you hear
needless
what
to
I'm
say,
saying.
you can build a museum according to the statute. Is that correct?
Or a venue, and I'm not really
And
sure.
Chris, all I'm saying is, I mean, I'm going to follow advice of legal and not get
Right,
ourselves in any.
but I just wanna
bind.
clarify.
But it'd be to me if that's what she's saying. It's a resubmittal of taking plaza off to museum. If that's the case, and I don't know, and I'm
so
not
we can
telling you
do
to
that.
change your words. I'm just
Correct?
asking the question.
One of the authorized uses is for a museum, the construction of a museum that must be publicly owned and operated.
There you go.
Or owned and operated by a not-for-profit organization and open to the public. And there are AGOs that have deemed an expenditure ineligible if there isn't both ownership and operation of either the public or the private entity.
So
Thank you very much
I
for that
plan on
clarification.
respecting that in my motion. There's no way I wouldn't respect that, so I know when I make a motion how I'm going to land. Do you two gentlemen, you were standing there, I don't want to disrespect.
No, I had one more question for Chris.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Chris, so who will be the owner operator of this? Hey, Cedric.
The city of Pensacola.
And you have that
Yes.
confirmed.
Yes, sir. Because Wayside Park is in the city confines. We have some little minor technical things on some stewardship agreement, but in the big scheme of things, the aircraft is leased to the city of Pensacola from the Air Force Museum in Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. We will be turning over the flagpole, and the statue has already been purchased by the city of Pensacola. And all fixtures attached to the ground on Wayside Park will be permanently owned by the city of Pensacola.
And Chris, my final question, because you've heard what I've said. You know,
Yes, sir.
I'm willing to take, my discretionary money to support the item. But I also know there was a commitment by your organization for the private sector. I mean, I think public-private partnership is essential.
We've raised
what is
1.3
the
million.
commitment? Yeah, what's the commitment? Is the commitment still there from the private dollars from your group?
We've raised $1.3 million.
Y'all have raised
1.3. So, one of the discussions at TDC was they're looking in the future to have a policy where at least half the funds are raised by whatever organization requiring or requesting monies from the TDC. We've exceeded that.
You've
We've
raised 1.3 private dollars.
No, it's not. Let me ask you this. When somebody comes here from the country of Singapore, does anybody ask them about private dollars? And we've given them $220 million. Okay? So we don't have a problem giving people money, even people that are foreign to this country.
Chris, I'm
So
with you on
we've
that.
already raised $1.3 million. Nobody assisted us in that effort other than Senator Broxson, when we raise the funds, but at the end of the day, our organization raised that money, put that money together, and the money is sitting there waiting to be expended for building this museum.
Okay.
All right, I'd like to move forward unless there's more comments.
Did Ms. Alexander have something?
Cedric, I'm sorry.
And
I
Mr. Dimmons
thought
was there.
Come
Mr.
on, man.
Dimmons was there,
You
too.
tell us what's on your
thank
mind.
you very much, Cedric Alexander. You know, to bring this all together, if we will, and if we could, please. First of all, let me say this. Miss Lydia James was my kindergarten teacher. So that means something to me in terms of the work we're doing here with this foundation. More importantly than anything else, as much as we can argue or find reason not to build this plaza, I think we can find all the reason to build this plaza. Because we all can find a reason not to do something, but we know very well too, when we want to do something in this community, we get it done. This is, regardless of what we have to do to get it done, I would encourage this board as strongly as I can that we're talking about an American hero that was born and raised in this community, period. And the men and women that you see that have come here today who have served in our military armed forces, who are aviators, who are fighter pilots, who did all a variety of a lot of different work in military, who are still living or were born and raised in this community itself. If for no other reason, we need to find the money to build this, whatever we decide to call it, merely because that is General Chappie James, born, raised in this community, went out beyond this community at a very challenging time in America's history, back in the 40s and 50s, and everything that he did is a reflection of everything that needs to be done here today. And I just humbly request that we find the money to get this done. And Chris Dosif and all of us have really done a lot over the last number of years to try to make this come true. And here's the other piece, and I must add, Mr. Chair, and I will promise you I will sit down.
It's okay, I'm listening.
Whether this becomes a tourist site or not, I frankly don't care anything about. What's important to me that this community recognize its own, period. It recognized its own at this time in the history of this nation as we move forward collectively. Nothing else. We got to find a way to find the money for this. So for those who argue they want to see it done, but yet present argument that they don't think it can be done, that's not acceptable. What is acceptable is that we have to find a way to get it done, and I don't care how it gets done, but thank you for allowing me a few minutes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
and
you.
I just want to, whoa, lights all lit. I thought we were done. Okay, Commissioner Barry.
I mean, seems as if there's support for the item, but I don't know, based on the data that was distributed, that was distributed last week by the foundation, to say that they had raised $1.3 million or $1.2 or $3 million privately. I don't know that that's accurate. I think the private contributions are about $120,000 based on the budget that was distributed. So just to be clear, I mean, you're counting the money that we would potentially be giving you into the money that you've raised. I don't know that that's not a disingenuous statement when you say, that's not a question either. That's not a question either.
Yeah,
That's not a
Chris, you got to let, we're in deliberations. If he wants you to come up, he'll ask you.
So just so that we're all clear about what we're doing, that seemed to be a point of conversation that, well, a ton of private money has been raised. I don't know that that's the case.
Well,
but it appears that there's support.
I will tell you this, I've been frank with the foundation that they need to raise more money. And I don't take this lightly. That's why I got two lawyers, the city, our financial person, everyone in the room, like Mr. Cedric said, to see if we could get to yes. I can get to yes. I have enough people say I can get to yes. So I don't need to I'm there. I don't need, if three lawyers agree that I can get to yes, I'm okay. And that's where I'm at.
Mr. Chairman, and Commissioner Berry, I agree with you, and I just said that to Chris. You know, I think the original commitment I thought was for $300,000. I don't know where it is or what, but I would want, and I agree with you, Commissioner Cole, I would want to see some private dollars that put forth. But in this climate that we have, in our country, in our state, in our county, this is important. What I'm not willing to do, you know, we have a volunteer board of TDC members that made a decision. I'm going to respect where they are. I'm going to respect their opinion of what they got, and when they say it's not legal, we pay lawyers a lot of money to tell me, brother, I mean, I can't defend myself in court. You know, it doesn't matter what my opinion is. It doesn't really matter what my emotions are. It just matters what the law says and what precedent does we have and how the judge rules. And it's simply, you know, I think that there's a consensus here on this board that General Chappie James should be recognized. I don't think we have to even debate that anymore. We don't even have to have anybody come to, we did that when we named the bridge after him. We said he was a significant American, not just an African American, but a significant American. And so, is it legal? If it's not legal to take it out, I mean, we don't have to go against our TDC. It's very simple. $750,000 is something that if we're all committed, we can, in theory, if we want it, we can direct staff today to go figure it out, bring it back. I don't know what the performer is. The performer could be money from the City of Pensacola Parks and Rec Department. It's a park. It's a public park. It may be some private tourism dollars. It may be some LOST dollars. It doesn't matter. If we want to do it, we just direct staff to get with legal with Cody and get with Allison, work it out, bring it back what's legal, what will get paid by the clerk, and and do it. Rather than just we can beat this horse in perpetuity. But if we want to do it, we just do it. I'm not clear because I hadn't got a direct answer from legal that we can pay it out of tourist development tax. I don't have that. But I do know that we can pay it out of something. You know, I mean, we have opportunities. We're going to sell outline field aid. We have money that's come in from opioids. I mean, we have discretionary money. We have LOST money. We, quite frankly, have reserve money. I mean, we know that, we're going to have probably an increase in values of our property. So, I mean, there is a way to work this out without us, without anybody getting beat up, without us disrespecting TDC and without us hurting any of our marketing and destination partners. We can make this happen. I just think, Mike, in my opinion, I'm not going to go against what legal says. I mean, she needs an attorney general. She needs leases. She needs whatever. She needs to get that. But I think in theory, we can just say, let's move forward and tell staff to figure out how to bring it back. And if you want to put the requirement for the private funding, Mike, you and Steve want to do that, I'll certainly support that.
I'm going to put multiple contingencies in my motion.
Yeah, so I mean, I can support that. But I'm ready for us to move it forward and get something done. I mean, it's just time.
Amen. Commissioner.
Or say we're not going to do it. It's one of the two.
I agree.
You know what?
We're either going to
do it or we're not going to do it.
Say we're not going to do it. And I'm ready
to tell them to go raise the money privately. I mean, I'm sure that they have the will to go raise it privately if we don't. I mean,
Commissioner Strober.
Okay, last comment from me. I agree with all of that. And I appreciate Mr. Alexander's comments. But one thing is, I think it will. We should definitely honor him, but it's going to promote tourism. It will. And what's that? Yeah, it's going to promote tourism. I say it's going to promote tourism. What I didn't know, I'm learning stuff about General James all the time. And something I learned about a week ago was General James wanted to be a naval aviator, but he couldn't be one. So he went to the Air Force. He wanted to be a naval aviator, but we didn't have black naval aviators. So we lost out on that. But we can't miss out on this, okay? So I'm waiting for someone to make a motion, and I'm ready to go.
I'm ready. I pass the gavel to Ashley. So my motion will be that Chris, I just want to make sure it's under 5AC that we use $750,000 out of the TDT that was originally voted on, even though they rescinded it, $100,000 out of the general fund for the county. I'll put $25,000 of my own discretionary, and it's dependent on the city owning the property and a positive impact from the Haas study. That's my motion.
And just for
Second, yeah.
one point of clarification, we're taking it out of TDC dollars, and we feel it's legal.
I've been told by 3 lawyers, if we meet
That's Christian,
the stewardship and that we have the impact study, that we're good. I didn't make that up on my own. So,
okay.
and I thank the clerk and Cody and all of us have said that. So I wouldn't do it if I didn't think it was legal. And I'm willing, if anyone wants to throw any other discretionary in on this, I think it would help. But that's, for me, I'll add 25,000. But there was a motion and a second. Is there any other comments?
No.
All right. Please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Congratulations, Foundation. What a great thing for the county to move forward with that in Black History Month. I really think that was a bold move. I appreciate that. All right, where are we at? We're at the county attorney report. If you would like to move forward with our agenda items.
Yes, there are 3 action items. You may wish to hold the third, but we can proceed as you wish.
Mr. Chairman, are there any speakers for the first item?
Yes, there's one speaker. Can we go ahead and pull Mr. Moorhead up?
If it's Mr. Moorhead, I presume he's speaking in support and would be available for questions.
It's 1-1, correct.
Okay.
I think there was also an ask that we edit C and acknowledge that only lane clearing is allowed and actually move that to construction can begin. If I'm not mistaken, was the request from Mr. Moorhead. I don't believe there's any legal reason that they can't move forward with that.
Yeah, I agree. And that if that's your motion, that was going to be my motion as well. But that's,
Yeah.
Okay. Is it,
That's correct, that's my motion.
Okay.
No, that's my request.
So, did you make the motion? I'm sorry. Got distracted. Or was it you, Commissioner Berry? Or did anybody?
okay. I move forward with item 1 with an amendment to item C, saying that rather than only land clearing be allowed, that the full development or full construction be allowed, and still including the language at developer's risk.
Second.
All right, please vote. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Kristen?
The second action item is concerning a miscellaneous appropriations agreement for the Sacred Heart Foundation, Inc. We're asking that you rescind your previous approval. The applicant has rescinded their application for funding.
This is the wine on water 250.
Yes.
They rescinded?
Yes.
Move to
Did they-
rescind it.
Okay, I guess that's fine. Is there a second?
Second.
Please vote. Motion passes 5-0.
The third action item is a recommendation at the request of Commissioner Hoffberger to schedule a discussion on the 3/6 agenda to discuss the county administrator's contract.
Okay. Commissioners Hofberger, do you have any comments on this?
No, yes, I guess I do. So following the 6-month review clause in Wes's contract, the obligation of the commission to provide notice and the previous procedures from the last changeover with county admin, I am asking my colleagues to put his contract on the agenda for the next meeting, and we can take up discussion then.
Kristen, does that require a vote?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Berry, you have your light on. Do you have a comment?
Yeah, and I would certainly be supportive whatever issues Commissioner Hoffberger may have with the administrator. I'm very supportive of her, communicating those with him. I'm not interested in having it on an agenda. I'm not going to support putting it on the agenda for the 6th for the contract to be discussed, but I do encourage her to have whatever discussions she feels are necessary for her to have with the administrator, as well as when Madam Attorney's back, whatever discussions need to be had with her, if there are any. I'm sure that the 2 employees that the board employs would welcome those discussions from their employers, but I'm not going to support putting it on the agenda.
Okay.
So
I
actually,
have a
what
few
would
comments and questions, but Commissioner Berry, go ahead.
And, we only have 2 employees, and they become very public, and Commissioner Berry and I have been here, never, with probably, transition of 3 county administrators. Are you looking for an evaluation, or just discuss the terms of the contract, payment of the contract? What's the gist of, because I'm very reluctant to ever have a public discussion about an employee, because it's not like an administrator's meeting with his director. It's,
It is very
It becomes
awkward.
highly political to have a discussion about an administrator in a public meeting. You know,
Agreed,
and
and
that,
it
and that
is
would be
very
very
awkward.
challenging. You know, if someone was dissatisfied with an administrator, I mean, they would have the right to make a motion to relieve him of their duties. You know, and you know, however that would fall. I don't know if I'm interested in coming in and doing a public evaluation or discussion of my dissatisfaction with any of the attorney or the administrator. I tried to do those, you know, in the privacy of their office, you know, and without bringing it here for a public discussion. So I just didn't know what your ultimate goal was in discussing that contract.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking. So we are 6 months from the renewal date of the contract, and I think it would behoove us to look into the future and decide what we're going to do with that. So I wanted to bring it to the board's attention. From a business standpoint, you don't wait until 30 days out to decide if you're going to renegotiate or replace or suspend that contract. So I want to look ahead as a community. I do have several reasons why I've brought this up, which I am ready to discuss. I would prefer not to do that because much like you, I don't
Right.
think that a public
Exactly.
place is to do it. I also don't have the opportunity to talk to the other 4 of you outside of this meeting. So I did call Wes and give Wes heads up yesterday. And I don't know a better way to do it and stay inside of sunshine laws.
Well, honestly, you can't. I brought this up at the ethics thing. When you guys were there, I asked the state ethics lawyer, and unfortunately, I find this, I think we should do performance evaluations on the county administrator and county attorney, but sadly, we either can do them individually, or we have to do them out here and air all the dirty laundry. There's no, thank you, state legislature, for that. But that's the rules, you know, and it's what it is. Do you have another comment?
Absolutely. That was directed at, I guess, a general, at all of us, and you're absolutely right. I mean, for me, I prefer, you know, to have a one-on-one. If there are issues, here, they serve, an administrator and an attorney serve at the will of this board. Like we serve at the will of the people. We don't really get a 6 months or 12 months heads up that we're going to be gone. We go to the ballot and people decide that day, you know, where we're going to go. To have it, for me, actually, I would not support putting it there. At the point where there is that the administrator or the attorney, where three of us decide that they're gone, that happens. Unfortunately, they don't get a 90-day heads up. They don't get a 30-day heads up because, you know, any person that's running something of this magnitude, if we had a vote of no confidence in them, they're coasting at that point. And when you're coasting, you're going downhill. You know, I mean, and so, you know, that's to have that discussion and to bring out in a public setting the dissatisfaction with someone in the public forum. I don't know if that's goodwill or good benefit. You know, either way, all of us have our opinion of what we like. I mean, but to bring that out at that point, that would be probably a vote of no confidence if we came out and looked at all the deficiencies as we individually believe. And I think that, you know, the administrator and the county worked for all 5 of us for our will. And I would hope that, you know, there would be an open door policy, and, you know, I probably spend less time with the administrating lawyer than any of y'all. I mean, you know, but I would hope that there's an open door policy where you're able to go talk to them.
Right. I would agree with that. And I wanted it to be a discussion for all of us and transparent to the community as well. And again, I can't call you and say, hey, are you happy or are you not? So we can't
Right.
collectively have those conversations. I'm fine each one of us having a conversation one-on-one and then coming with solutions to the next meeting. That's why I wanted to put it on the agenda for the sake of transparency. And agree, from an HR standpoint, you don't give someone a heads up. So there's multiple ways you can work that out. What I don't want to do is, I want to make sure that we follow through and that we do the best that we can for an employee that has been with us for so long. So that is absolutely top priority. So where I do feel like there's a need for change, and I have reasons for those, and we can figure out how to address that later. I want
Absolutely.
to make sure that we take care of that employee.
Right, that's cool. And I certainly respect your position. And listen, it's a new board, you know, and new ideas and new opinions. I certainly, you know, even if we're going to individually spend time to talk to the attorney or the administrator, March 6th is way too soon, to bring something back. We're throwing it on them. I mean, that would be, to me, that would be unfair and unchallenging.
That was
he
what
has
was
a contract
done last
till-
time, so I was just following the precedent set in the last time this happened.
And you're right, and almost,
Actually, that's a good point. I asked Kristen what the timeline was. Is she correct on that?
There are two avenues of review for the county administrator. One,
When's his annual review in his contract?
there's a provision in the contract that provides for an annual review, which can either be collectively or individually. If it's collectively, it should occur within the 30 days before the expiration of the contract, which would
So that
not
would be
be
July.
until July.
Right.
If it is individually, it can be within a 6-month window before the expiration. So aside from that, there is a provision in our code and the statute that requires if removal is considered, then there must be notice to the county administrator, which is the purpose for then scheduling a discussion.
How much
That is a
notice, Kristen?
consideration.
Just out of curiosity. I don't know the timeline is. What's the notice? A week, 2 weeks, 48 hours, a month?
It's not specified. It just says notice.
Okay.
But you said if we're going to publicly talk about it, it's 30 days out. If we're going to individually talk about it.
If it's a review, as per the contract, yes, it's supposed to be 30 days out, but those are contract terms, and the county administrator is employed at the will of the commissioners, so presumably.
But I mean,
they want to
every employee has an annual evaluation. Everyone deserves that. I mean, just so they know how they're gauged and how they're measured.
Yeah, but we don't do it with the county attorney and county administrator.
Well, I tell you, I mean, personally, I'm giving them an evaluation on a bi-weekly basis. I mean, I interact with both of them regularly, and I assure you that
The contract
my
states-
my displeasures are communicated, pretty openly, as I would just assume all of ours are. But I mean, I can only speak for myself. I'm, pretty open, and I would assume all of us, by the nature of the positions that we're in, are comfortable communicating our, likes and dislikes and happiness and unhappiness. And I do that on a regular basis. So.
Commissioner Berry, I'd like to say, Wes, I know you're sitting right next to us like a wallflower while we're talking about you.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, I will tell you this, I have very open and frank conversations with you. I tell them where this county I think it sucks and where we're doing great. And I don't think we have a whole lot of suck, but we do. Every organization does. Let's just be honest. There's areas that need improvement. I think that each of us should sit down with Wes over the next month, this is just my suggestion, and voice your concerns to him of what you believe needs to be changed in the county. And I don't know, Commissioner Hofberger, if you've done that, I don't know. Like you said, we can't have these conversations. But we are eventually going to have to renew the contract, right? We're going to have that discussion here in either June or July timeframe. And I think we have a window here in the next month to voice what each of us think could make the county better. And that's kind of where I think we should land today, but I don't know where I don't know where the board believes they should land. But I do want to say something else, and I got to say this. I don't like how this process is going. I'll tell you why. I don't like when someone calls me and asks me about a job when I'm getting off a plane. I don't work like that with any employee. No matter what happens with this board with you, Wes, I'm going to dignify your 38 years of service, period. I am not going to have someone call me and tell me they're going to be a job. I'm not going to mention the name. The man's a decent man. I don't think he wants to. If and when this board decides to make changes, it should be a deliberative process, and it should go out where everyone feels like whoever we hire, if that happens, I'm not saying that's where we're at, that everyone on this board has a collective voice. And so that bothered me, Commissioner Hofberger. And I'm not saying, I don't know if you were involved with it, or I think you know who called me, but I would rather do business a little bit different for me. And I'm just saying that I don't like doing that with people.
I understand that. I also don't like waiting to the last minute, and we're restricted, right? So what I don't want to do is wait to that 30-day window, and then we don't have time to have these conversations, and we don't have time to talk. I think as a county, a lot of us were elected on change and planning and moving forward. So we need a plan for that, and I would like to discuss that plan more than 30 days out.
Well, I mean, and obviously, Ashley, I mean, there's going to be a point of transition. Our team is, you know, many people are in drop. I mean, I can tell you the county attorney has publicly said, you know, she wants to transition out, you know, in the next 24 months. I've not had that discussion with Administrator Marino, who I think, you know, there's never been a time I called him when he didn't pick up the phone. You know, there's, you know, and so, you know, we all have our, you know, individual relationships, but here's what happens in an organization. The culture of an organization must be kept intact. You know, no matter how talented the team is, if they don't work together as a team, we can't win. And I would say that, you know, obviously to sit here and have a discussion of Wes, I can guarantee you, you got some directors and employees in here going to go put their resume out today. You know, I guarantee you. And we just brought in an IT guy. I mean, to have these discussions can certainly change the mood, the attitudes of an organization. I mean, because if I was in the C-suite and I knew that, you know, there was a discussion of my administrator, I would be looking at opportunities. And I want to be very careful that, you know, even when we change, you know, at the helm, we're not losing talented people who are going for more stability and security. And so that's why, to me, March 6th would probably be a no-go for me to support that.
Meeting?
I'd like to have it, you know, if you want to do the evaluation, I'd like to go with him and individually have ours. And if you want to bring it back and have that discussion after that, I would be willing to have that conversation. But I do think that it's, in all fairness, particularly, and I'm just going to say for Wes, a person who's dedicated 38 years of their life to an organization, they deserve, you know, in my opinion, they deserve the respect, you know, of the organization and the support of their board. Because once an administrator doesn't have the support of his board, he's a lame duck. I mean, he can walk out there and, you know, the rec specialist can tell him to go fly a kite. And we got to make sure that as long as he's leading and he has our support. When I believe, you know, there's no separation. You're divorced. You know what I mean? You're in or you're out. You know what I mean?
Right.
But to put someone as a lame duck administrator, to me, is detrimental to an organization.
Right, and I want to make sure that together we're able to work through a plan for that, and the only place to do that, unfortunately, is here. So, again, that's why I followed the precedent set by the last changeover.
Well, I think you brought up some good points, Commissioner Hopperger. I think that frank discussions with any employee are important for the movement of the organization to move forward. I learned with these things over the years. We learn how to handle things differently. It's not always perfect, but we're at Wes, as you know, the board's going to have a discussion about your contract. And I think it's worthwhile for everyone here to have that discussion with Wes and find out what his intentions are. And like, I know he knows my issues with the county because I tell him, and he knows that. I know he'll admit I have no problem being frank with someone. But I would say that, and I don't know, I don't think you're going to get a vote today on this. I think we should move forward in the next month with each individual commissioner talking with Wes about the issues. Can you live with that? Okay. Is there any further discussion? Any items to add to the agenda? No. There's no announcements. If that's it, folks, we'll meet on March 6th for the cow. Everyone have a good Mardi Gras. This meeting's adjourned.